Chapter 261. If that's the case, doesn't that mean the ancient palace only has the so-called Tao scripture? Yi Fan was disappointed. Don't underestimate this Tao scripture. For tens of thousands of years, there are only a few ancient scriptures in the entire Big Dipper that can be compared to it. It records the mysterious cultivation techniques, from opening the sea of bitterness to connecting the bridge of heaven and earth to the other side. All of them are explained in detail. It can be said that it is the most powerful ancient scripture in the reincarnation realm. Chu Bei smirked. Moreover, although the ancient palace doesn't have the ancient desolate tower, it has a treasure that is not inferior to it. Yi Fan's eyes lit up. What is it? A treasure that looks like a piece of scrap copper, Chu Bei said calmly. Scrap copper? Yi Fan frowned. Chu Bei smiled when he saw Yi Fan's longing gaze and did not continue. While Chu Bei and Yi Fan were talking, the atmosphere above the volcano also became abnormally tense. The sect leaders of the 6 grotto heavens and the group of great demons were ready to fight at any moment. Greedy humans, the ancient palace left behind by the monster emperor is about to open. Do you really want to break the peace of the past hundreds of years and start a war with us? Elder Dragon, who was covered in shining red scales, stood up like a bloody city wall and gave off a shocking feeling. The 6 grotto heaven sect leader looked at the group of great monsters and shouted, "How can the treasure of the human race fall into the hands of the monster race? If you want to fight, then let's fight." What a joke. This is the tomb of the monster emperor, but you are using the treasure of the human race and the Tao scripture as an excuse to rob the tomb of the monster emperor. The young monster race girl with a pair of golden wings said with a pleasant voice that was filled with killing intent, "Whether it is true or not, we will know when we enter the ancient palace. If there is no treasure of the human race in the Tao scripture, we will leave immediately and not touch anything inside. However, if there are 2 treasures, we can take them away. This way, we can avoid a fight and it will benefit both of us," said the spiritual Mound Grotto Heaven sect leader. Ridiculous. How can the Shifter Emperor's mausoleum be blasphemed by you humans? As soon as she finished speaking, the beautiful blonde girl glanced at the ancient palace that was about to appear. She spread her wings and thousands of golden divine feathers turned into golden divine arrows that shot towards the foreheads of the 6 great grotto heavens. No matter what, we must take back the supreme treasure of the human race in the Tao scripture today. In the face of the golden-haired girl's attack, the spiritual ruins grotto heavens sect master remained strong. He waved his sleeves and immediately, a misty purple gas spread out like a raging sea and blocked the endless divine feathers. Kill. As the old dragon's cold voice fell, divine light bloomed from its body. It opened its mouth and spat out a beam of dazzling light toward the Jade Tripod Paradise's sect master. Dong, 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 however. Just as the head of the Jade Tripod Cave Heaven was about to launch an attack, the frequency of the muffled sound in the ancient palace, which was like a heart beating violently, rose to the extreme. In the next moment, a 5-colored brilliance shot into the sky from the volcano's crater. Magma that was as red as blood shot up into the sky. The majestic ancient palace shook violently with a loud boom. Complex and mysterious demonic inscriptions were faintly discernible as it left the volcano's crater and floated in the void. Don't fight with these demons. Taking back the supreme treasure of the human race and the Tao scripture is of utmost importance. The voice of the spiritual ruins grotto heavens sect master reverberated in the air. The other 5 sect masters clearly had the same thought as they left the battle and flew toward the ancient palace at the same time. The group of great demons naturally rushed toward the majestic ancient palace as well. They had to open the door before the humans and stop them from blaspheming the Shifter Emperor. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several rainbows streaked across the sky. Among these experts, the golden-haired girl was undoubtedly the fastest in terms of speed. She was the first to appear in front of the ancient palace. She flapped her wings and pushed open the 5-colored jade door. Not only the girl, but the group of great demons and the sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens were all stunned when they saw the door of the ancient palace being pushed open so easily. In their opinion, the Shifter Emperor's mausoleum should have at least 1 or 2 seals. If Chu Bei knew what they were thinking, he would definitely laugh out loud. What kind of realm was a great emperor in? He could travel through the major galaxies with a single step and destroy stars with a lift of his finger. Even if such a being had set up the simplest seal, how could they, the weakest of the weakest, break it? Perhaps they would be destroyed into nothingness by the seal before they could even get close to the ancient palace. Boss, when do we move? Yifan looked at Chu Bei and waited for his instructions. Chu Bei glanced at the majestic palace above the crater of the volcano. He did not reply to Yifan. Instead, he turned into a divine rainbow and disappeared from the spot. Boss, wait for me. Seeing this, Yifan did not hesitate and immediately turned into a bolt of lightning and flew toward the ancient palace. The entire ancient palace was made of 5-colored divine jade. It was as if it had come from the primordial era through time and space. It made people feel the precipitation of time and the aura of history. The walls of the ancient palace were sparkling, and there were countless ancient words engraved on them. The dragon-shaped words were vigorous, the phoenix-shaped words were flying, the tortoise-shaped words were heavy, and the Kirin-shaped words were majestic. They were the shifter race's imperial language from before the primordial era. The ancient palace was divided into 3 floors. At this moment, on the first floor, the sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens and a group of great demons were frantically searching. Who are you two? Finally, a great demon found Chu Bei and Yifan. His cold voice was filled with strong murderous intent. At this moment, whether it was the elites of the 6 great grotto heavens or the group of great demons, all their eyes were focused on Chu Bei and Yifan. Our purpose here is the same as yours. Of course, we are also here to search for treasures. Chu Bei had a smile on his face. As he spoke, he had already released his observation hockey to the extreme. Fellow cultivator, you don't look familiar. Can you tell us your name? The sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens glanced at Chu Bei. After a brief exchange of glances, the sect master of the Jade Ding grotto heaven cupped his fists and said, "To be able to enter this ancient palace with them, even if the other party's strength was weaker than theirs, the difference would not be too great. I am just a businessman. There is no such thing as a name. If you have to say a name, then just call me Boss Chu." Chu Bei waved his robe and said indifferently, "Boss Chu?" Hearing this, the sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens looked at each other. They had never heard of such a name in the entire eastern wilderness, let alone the Yin Kingdom. No matter who you are, as long as you are a human, you will all die for blaspheming the mausoleum of the great demon emperor. Elder Dragon, whose body was covered in shining red scales, glanced coldly at Chu Bei, Yifan, and the sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens. However, just as he was about to attack, below the pitch-black stone platform in the main hall, a very thin strand of golden foil flew out of the hall. Instantly, the group of powerful cultivators who were about to fight again stopped what they were doing and turned their attention to the golden foil. They were all stunned at first, but when they came to their senses, their eyes shone brightly as they chased out of the main hall. "Human, this golden foil can't be the human treasure and Taoist scripture that you were talking about, right? Then why are you fighting with us?" The golden-haired girl's expression was cold as she shouted angrily. She flapped her wings, and several rays of golden light slashed towards the sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens. "Whether it is or not, we will know when we get it." The silver cauldron rushed out of the spiritual ruins grotto heavens sect master's body. The cauldron vibrated, and light shot out in all directions. With a whoosh, it met the demon clan girl's attack. "Kill. Stop them. The treasure left behind by the great demon emperor must not fall into the hands of these humans." As the demon clan girl's cold voice fell, the other great demons all attacked. Immediately, demonic chi shot up into the sky, and killing intent shot up into the clouds. The surging demonic chi was like a vast ocean, and thousands of waves swept across the sky. Almost at the same time, the divine chi in the sea of sufferings of the 6 great grotto heavens sect masters boiled. Their bodies were covered in dazzling divine light. As they chased after the golden foil, they waved their hands and scattered the demonic chi that was rushing towards them. In an instant, The sect masters of the 6 great grotto heavens, the great elders, and the group of great demons were engaged in a chaotic battle above the volcano. Demonic chi filled the air, divine light shot up into the sky, and multicolored light shot out in all directions. All kinds of weapons were dancing in the sky, and it was extremely beautiful. The divine drum, silver lamp, bronze cauldron, golden sword, 8 trigrams mirror, blood saber, dragon scale blade, and so on were constantly being used by the 6 great grotto heavens experts. They clashed with the attacks of the great demons, and clanging sounds could be heard incessantly. This place is, that's the sect master and great elder. Why are they fighting with the great demons? The sect master seems to be fighting with the great demons for something. What's going on with that ancient palace? So that's where the weird muffled sound came from. Yi Zi and that fraud. What are the two of them doing? At that moment, Pangbo, Linjia, and the others arrived at the periphery of the collapsed buildings under the lead of the 6 great grotto heavens elders. All of them stared at the battlefield above the volcano, and their faces were filled with astonishment. This was especially so for Pangbo, Linjia, and the rest of the Earthlings. They found it hard to calm down as they watched the battle above the volcano from afar. They were dazzled and looked forward to it. "Boss, what's that golden foil?" Yi Fan pointed at the golden foil that was floating in all kinds of lights on the battlefield and looked at Chu Bei with a confused expression. Tao Scripture Reincarnation Scroll. 5 calm syllables came out of Chu Bei's mouth. What? That's the Tao Scripture. Yi Fan's mouth was wide open. He thought that the Tao Scripture, which was an immortal scripture of the human race, would be a thick scroll. He did not expect it to be a palm-sized golden foil that was less than 2 millimeters thick. Rumble. The battle on the battlefield became more and more intense. The figures of the 6 great grotto heavens, sect master, great elder, and the great demons were constantly intertwining with each other. With the golden foil as the center, all kinds of lights flashed, and all kinds of weapons swallowed and spat out divine light. The continuous bombardment was deafening. As the battle dragged on, both sides began to fight with all their might, and the battle evolved into a battle of life and death. Both sides no longer held back and used all kinds of killing moves. No matter which side it was, they were determined to obtain this mysterious golden foil. Chapter 262. I got it! I got it! Suddenly, one of the Grand Supreme Elders of the Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heaven laughed out loud as his right hand gripped tightly onto the golden foil. However, before his laughter could spread, his expression froze. At that moment, all the great demons on the battlefield gave up on attacking their original opponents and turned their attention to the Grand Supreme Elder who had obtained the golden foil. The sudden series of attacks caused the Grand Supreme Elder to retreat. Soon, his chest was pierced by a great demon, and half of his heart was dug out. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. As for the golden foil, it landed in the great demon's hand. However, in less than 2 seconds, the combined attack of the 6 Grotto Heavens sect masters arrived. The Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heavens sect master's expression was cold as he formed a hand seal with both hands, drawing a strange trajectory in the sky. The silver cauldron vibrated, and endless fog spread out, instantly sucking the great demon into the cauldron. With a loud bang, divine flames filled the sky, and a heart-wrenching scream was heard from within the cauldron. The great demon was melted alive in an instant, and only 2 wisps of smoke floated out. After dealing with the great demon, the Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heavens sect master did not grab the golden foil. Instead, he retreated a little to increase the distance between him and the golden foil. With the previous example, everyone present knew that no matter who obtained the golden foil, they would instantly become the target of the other party's firepower. This is really a hot potato. Yi Fan, who was watching the battle not far away, sighed. Chu Bei gave a non-committal smile, a purple light pulsating in his right palm. The great demon and the 6 Grotto Heavens sect masters were similar in strength. Whoever touched the golden foil would die. The battle above the volcano was getting more and more intense. Although everyone's attention was on the golden foil, no one deliberately fought for it. We can't keep fighting like this. Such a huge commotion will soon attract the attention of the outside forces. I'm the fastest. You guys block these humans with all your might. I'll immediately retreat after I get the mysterious golden foil. After a long while, the golden-haired demon clan girl flapped her wings and shouted. She turned into a golden light and reached out to grab the golden foil floating in the middle of the battlefield. You're courting death. Seeing this, the 6 Heavenly Grotto Heavens sect leader Ku Hai released a dazzling light. They all took out their weapons and attacked the Yao clan girl. Just as the attacks were about to hit the monster clan girl, the group of great monsters roared angrily and surrounded the girl, blocking the attacks of the 6 Paradise sect leader for her. Thank you, everyone. The monster race girl revealed a look of joy. The first wave of attacks from the 6 Paradise sect masters had been blocked. Even if they were to gather their strength and launch a second wave of attacks, the time it took was enough for her to take the golden foil and escape. Sheila, however, the monster race girl had already thought of a way to retreat. Just as she was about to grab the gold foil, a dazzling purple light flashed in her line of sight. Then, with a tearing sound, a purple light that looked like a swimming snake appeared out of thin air and wrapped around the gold foil like a rope. In the next moment, the purple light flashed and disappeared along with the mysterious golden foil that everyone was fighting over. This, not only the monster race girl, but the group of great monsters beside her, as well as the 6 Paradise sect leaders who were being held back, all had a change in expression when the purple light appeared. This sudden turn of events was something they did not expect, especially the monster race girl, who was in a daze, as if she had not recovered from her shock. The golden foil that was so close to her was mysteriously swept away by the purple light right under her nose. The treasure is over there. Suddenly, a great monster cried out in shock. With this cry, whether it was the 6 Paradise sect leaders or the monster race girl, all of their gazes fell on Chu Bei. At this moment, Chu Bei was playing with a long purple rope in his palm. To be exact, he was playing with the golden foil that was wrapped around by the purple rope. So it's you. The monster race girl fixed her gaze on Chu Bei and gritted her teeth in anger. Because the battle was too intense, she had forgotten about this guy who had entered the main hall with her. Otherwise, if she had been prepared, she would not have let him take advantage of her and obtain the golden foil. Is this a case of the fishermen benefiting from the fight between the sandpiper and the clam? The thing that they were fighting over seems to have been taken by that fraud. Why do I feel like Fraud Tion didn't spend much effort to snatch it? There are so many experts eyeing it covetously. So what if he took it? He has to be strong enough to protect it. Pangbo, Zhou Yi, and the rest looked at the golden foil in Chu Bei's hand and their eyes lit up. Boss Chu, this mysterious item came from the tomb of the monster race emperor. It is very likely to be related to the lost treasure of the human race. It will be difficult for you to guard it alone. The spiritual ruins Grotto Heaven is backed by the Yaoguang Holy Land. Please give it to me immediately and help me block these great monsters for a while. In the future, the human cultivators of the Eastern Wilderness will be grateful for what you have done today. With that, the spiritual ruins Grotto Heaven's sect leader immediately flew towards Chu Bei, followed by the other 5 sect leaders. Don't even think about leaving with the treasure of the monster race. Kill. With a cold shout, the golden-haired monster race girl spread her wings, and thousands of golden feathers shot towards Chu Bei like golden arrows. Behind her, a human-shaped beast with a wide mouth and sharp fangs spun like a top. Its half-foot-long fur intertwined to form a sharp spear that pierced towards Chu Bei. A giant red bird extended its golden claws and swooped down. The half-meter-long blades in its claws swept towards Chu Bei. In an instant, Chu Bei became the target of everyone. Boss Chu, what are you waiting for? Looking at Chu Bei, who was still standing on the same spot, the 6 Grotto Heavens sect leader looked anxious. Facing so many attacks, even if they were in his place, they would be severely injured even if they did not die. Seeing that their attacks were about to land on the human's body, a bloodthirsty look appeared in the eyes of the demon girl and the group of great demons. However, before the corners of their cold mouths could curl up, their expressions suddenly froze. Just as the countless attacks that were densely packed like an inescapable net were about to land on that human, a red light wall appeared out of thin air in front of him. TSK, TSK, TSK. In front of this red light wall, their attacks seemed to have met their nemesis. One after another, they were destroyed by the energy contained in the light wall. Not even a trace of aura could pass through the barrier and land on the human behind the barrier. This is impossible. Seeing that their attacks were ineffective, the monster race girl and the other great monsters' faces instantly turned gloomy. After a short moment of shock, the great monsters gathered their strength and attacked again. However, the outcome did not change. Some of the great demons even circled behind Chu Bei. Even so, when their attacks were about to hit Chu Bei's body, a wall of light appeared out of nowhere and forcibly extinguished their attacks. What's up with this guy's technique? What kind of ability is this? Even the Sea of Misery did not light up. What realm is he at? Could it be that he has already broken through the Nirvana realm and entered the next realm, the Tao Palace Mystic realm? Maybe. Otherwise, if he's also at the Nirvana realm like us, how could he block the attacks of so many great monsters? If that's the case, those great monsters will definitely not be able to snatch this mysterious gold foil from him. However, how are we going to get it from him? Do we really have to give this gold foil to him? Looking at the light wall that appeared around Chu Bei from time to time, the experts from the 6 great grotto heavens were shocked. After a moment of shock, their faces turned solemn. Hand it over. The great monsters stopped their attacks on Chu Bei. Then, with the monster race girl as the leader, they surrounded Chu Bei in the middle. I've seen you guys fighting for it for a while. I've already given you guys a chance. Since you guys can't grasp it, I'll keep this little toy for you guys. Chu Bei played with the gold foil in his hand with a faint smile on his lips. He glanced at the great monsters around him and waved at Yifan. Seeing that Chu Bei was calling for him, Yifan did not hesitate. He turned into a bolt of lightning and instantly appeared beside Chu Bei. Damn it! Hand over the great emperor's relic. The young monster girl's chilling voice sounded out once more. However, just as she gave the order and the group of great monsters rushed towards Chu Bei, ripples of energy gushed out from the red wall of light. Within these ripples, one could faintly see tiny bolts of lightning crackling. Bang, bang, bang. Within the strange ripples, the great monsters felt their bodies go numb as if they were struck by lightning. Before they could regain their senses, an unknown energy rippled out from the ripples. Instantly, the great monsters that were attacking Chu Bei were sent flying and landed heavily on the mountain. Could it be that his defensive technique has its own consciousness? I didn't even see him make a move. In the void, the sect leaders of the 6 great grotto heavens glanced at the great monsters who were in a sorry state on the mountain. Their gazes returned to Chu Bei. Other than shock, there was more confusion on their faces. Under their gazes, the guy named Boss Chu did not take out any magical treasure. The Sea of Misery did not light up, and there was not even a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation. However, even though he did not make a move, he still sent the great monsters flying. This human is strange. His strength is far above the sect leaders of the grotto heavens. He is not someone we can deal with. Quick, go and ask the elders to come out of seclusion. The treasure left behind by the great monster emperor must not be taken away by these humans. The monster race girl got up from the ground and glanced at Chu Bei with fear. Then, she said to the great monster beside her in a deep voice. That great monster nodded and then flew in the direction of the forbidden area of the remote antiquity. Fine, I'll give this opportunity to you. Meeting Yifan's curious gaze, Chu Bei shook his head and changed his mind about contributing the gold foil to the system. Then, he threw it to Yifan. Drip a drop of blood on it. Just as Yifan was about to say something, the gold foil flew in front of him. At the same time, Chu Bei's voice rang in his ears. When the gold foil landed in his hands, Yifan's mouth instantly opened wide. His face was full of surprise. This thin gold foil that was less than 2 millimeters long was actually very heavy. When he looked at it carefully, there were countless ancient characters engraved on it. Calming down the throbbing in his heart, Yifan bit his index finger and dripped a drop of blood on it according to Chu Bei's instructions. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Blood flowed along the strange patterns and spread out. Then, a blood-red light bloomed from the gold foil. Amidst the soul-stirring buzzing sound, one ancient character after another surged out from the gold foil and was reflected in the void. They were like stars shining brightly. Could it be that's looking at the countless resplendent ancient words in the sky? The heads of the 6 great grotto heavens were stunned at first. Then, their hearts began to race, and they felt their mouths go dry. They were so excited that they began to stutter. "Kid, hand over the scripture." Suddenly, a majestic and vigorous voice sounded from the distant sky. However, as soon as the sudden majestic voice reached everyone's ears, the ancient characters reflected in the sky seemed to have come alive and surged into Yifan's body crazily. Almost at the same time, the thin gold foil disappeared as well. At that moment, golden threads flowed out of Yifan's sea of misery and flowed to his limbs and bones. He felt that his flesh and bones were being nourished. It was extremely comfortable. "Boss, this?" Yifan looked at Chu Bei in surprise. At the same time, he pointed at the sea of misery with his eyes filled with surprise. At that moment, the gold foil had already fused into his body and was hovering above the bean-sized sea of misery. "Don't worry, it's good for your body. For the cultivation of the sea of reincarnation realm, you can cultivate according to what is recorded in this Tao scripture," Chu Bei said indifferently. The sect leader of the 6 grotto heavens and the group of demons were dumbfounded when they saw Yifan's sea of misery glowing with a golden light. The Tao scripture fused with Yifan's sea of bitterness. This result was something that they found hard to accept. It was inconceivable. "Brat, it seems that I can only take the scripture out of your body after I bring you back." The vigorous voice from before sounded again. At this time, everyone looked up at the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. Amidst the sound of air being torn apart, several divine rays of light shot over from the horizon. There were dozens of them. Behind these rainbows, there was a deafening roar, as if a magnificent army was galloping. Amidst the roars of savage beasts, the fog churned, and the clouds covered the sky. Tens of savage beasts soared through the clouds as they flew forward. Each of the savage beasts carried a cultivator on their backs. Although they were flying through the sky, the sounds of galloping thunder could be heard. It was as though an army of tens of thousands was charging towards them. They arrived so quickly. When they saw who it was, the expressions of the sect leaders of the 6 grotto heavens changed. Especially the sect leader of the spiritual mound grotto heaven. His face was extremely ugly. Looking over, the dozens of savage beasts were covered in dense scales and looked extremely ferocious. The cultivators standing on each of the savage beasts were hugging a huge flag. The flags fluttered in the wind, and their aura was monstrous. 36 divine rays of light were in the front while 27 savage beasts carried 27 powerful cultivators behind. Although there were only a few dozen of them, it was as if a magnificent army was charging over. Even the sky was trembling, as if there were endless heavenly soldiers and generals charging towards them. "Boss, this seems to be a new force." Yifan stood beside Chu Bei and said with a frown. Chu Bei nodded his head and glanced at this exaggerated group of people. The corner of his mouth curled up into a mocking smile. Chapter 263. Old Taoist, who are they? Why do I feel that they are even more powerful than the sect masters of the 6 grotto heavens? Outside the crater, Pang Bo looked at the new force that was surging with murderous aura and could not help but ask the old man beside him. "That is the wavering light's sacred ground?" The old man from the spiritual ruins grotto heaven took a deep breath. "Our grotto heaven is under them." "Wavering light sacred ground? Are they very powerful?" Pang Bo asked. "They are more than powerful. They are terrifying." The old man stared at the sky in shock. Most of the cultivators from the sacred ground have already surpassed the reincarnation realm and entered the next mysterious cultivation realm. Any one of them can kill us with a wave of their hand. Bai Xian, why didn't you inform us about the appearance of the Demon Emperor's tomb immediately? There was a questioning tone in his vigorous voice. It was a burly middle-aged man. His cold eyes were fixed on the spiritual ruins grotto heavens, sect master, as a terrifying aura enveloped him. Seventh Elder, we have just confirmed that it is the Demon Emperor's tomb. We have yet to report to you. Under the middle-aged man's aura, the spiritual ruins grotto heavens, sect master's face turned pale. If there is a next time, your grotto heaven will cease to exist. The spiritual ruins grotto heavens, sect master's body trembled as the aura that enveloped him suddenly disappeared. A large amount of sweat seeped out from his forehead. Xiaozhe, your wavering light sacred ground is so powerful. At this moment, a mocking voice came from another direction. Suddenly, the sky rumbled as 18 ancient chariots rolled over. Their murderous aura was so strong that the sky trembled. Jifeng, you are everywhere. When the people from the wavering light sacred ground saw the 18 ancient chariots, their pupils constricted. Everyone was on guard as their aura rose. As for the seventh elder, Xiaozhe, who was leading the group, he took a step forward and snorted at the chariot in the middle. Not only me. I believe the people from Jade Lake will be here soon. A laugh came from the largest chariot. Then, a man wearing a black robe with the word G printed on his chest walked out. Sure enough, just as the man from the G clan finished speaking, waves of melodious celestial music came from the distant horizon, following which a dozen or so women flew over, flying above the great demons. These dozen or so women were all dressed in snow-white robes. Although they couldn't be said to be extremely beautiful, each and every one of them was elegant and otherworldly, untainted by the aura of the mortal world. They were incomparably lithe as they fluttered through the air. They were like fairies, dancing fairies, otherworldly and otherworldly. Some of them were gently playing bamboo flutes, creating a melodious sound that was very pleasant to listen to. There were also some who were full of smiles, causing others to feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. These picturesque girls were like immortals with an otherworldly aura. Are all these holy lands so well informed? It's only been a short while, but they've all arrived. Who would have thought that the monster race Great Emperor's relic would be so tempting that even the Jade Lake's sacred ground, which had been secluded for a long time, would be alarmed? It seems that it won't be long before those sects that are further away would also flock here. The Wavering Light Sacred Ground, the G Clan of the Ancients, and the Jade Lake Sacred Ground. The three strongest sects stationed in the Yin territory have all arrived. Even the strongest cultivators of the three sects have arrived. It seems that the monster race Great Emperor's relic has nothing to do with us anymore. Looking at the three great forces in the sky, the 6 grotto heavens sect masters looked at each other and smiled bitterly. In front of the strongest cultivators in the Yin territory, although they were the sect masters of their respective paradises, they were still just ants. Balian, the Jade Lake sacred ground has always been aloof from worldly affairs. Could it be that you're also here to fight for the monster race Great Emperor's relic? Xiaozhe from the Wavering Light Sacred Ground and Jifeng from the G Clan looked in the direction of the Jade Lake Sacred Ground and asked tentatively. We happened to pass by and found that the demonic energy here was as vast as the sea, so we came to check it out. Who would have thought that the monster race Great Emperor's relic would appear here? A beautiful woman smiled faintly, then looked in the direction of the group of great demons and said, Since we've encountered it, we might as well take a look. If there's a supreme treasure of the human race, we'll naturally help. Damn humans, you're really greedy. The young lady and the group of great demons gnashed their teeth and glared at the three sects with resentment. At this moment, they were at a complete disadvantage because the elders of their clan were unknown. The leaders of the three sects glanced at the young lady, but no one answered. They all looked at Yifan. Don't look at me like that. It's a little scary. Sensing the burning gazes of Xiaozhe, Jifeng, and Balian, Yifan suddenly shuddered. He felt as if he was being targeted by prey. He subconsciously took a step back and stood behind Chu Bei. The 6 Paradise sect masters threw sympathetic glances at Yifan, who knew what kind of method these top sects would use to extract the Tao scripture from the latter's body. Little guy, do you know what the golden foil in your sea of bitterness is? Xiaozhe narrowed his eyes and stared at Yifan. That's the Tao scripture ocean of reincarnation scroll that our human race has lost for many years. You're just a sea of reincarnation realm cultivator with a mere divine bridge. You won't be able to protect such a supreme treasure. As he spoke, Xiaozhi stretched out his right hand. The center of his palm was densely covered with runes. A giant palm formed from runes swept toward Yifan. Don't be nervous. You've already swallowed the thunderbolt pill, and your body can transform into lightning. No one here can hurt you. You can use them to clearly understand the power of the lightning you're currently controlling. Facing the sudden attack, just as Yifan was about to ask for help from Chu Bei, the latter's indifferent voice sounded in his mind. After being reminded, Yifan's expression froze. Then, his eyes focused. He was no longer an ordinary human. He had eaten the thunderbolt pill from the All-Heaven City. The moment the giant rune palm hit him, Yifan's body suddenly transformed into lightning. With a sizzling sound, the giant rune palm passed through his body and smashed into the mountain rocks below, causing a violent tremor. In the next moment, a flash of lightning could be seen. Yifan had already appeared above Xiaozhi's head. Sensing the fluctuation of aura above his head, Xiaozhi's pupils suddenly shrank. However, before he could react, rolling lightning crackled above his head. This kid can actually control the power of lightning. The Sixth Paradise Sect Master looked at the lightning that Yifan had transformed into and could not help but sigh. Ji Feng from the Ji family and Bai Lian from the Jade Pool were also surprised by Yifan's technique. However, they were more confused than confused. Although the surging thunderbolt that Yifan had transformed into appeared to be quite imposing, they did not feel threatened at all. In fact, that was indeed the case. The crackling lightning bombarded Xiaozhi's body, but the latter did not have any reaction. The power of the attack was like a tickle to him. "Kid, how dare you trick me?" Feeling the power of the lightning, Xiaozhi's face turned pale. He looked at Yifan, who had returned to Chu Bei's side, and his eyes were about to spit fire. "How is it?" Chu Bei looked at Yifan with a smile. "This seems to be useless against these cultivators." Yifan scratched his head. If the lightning that he had transformed into struck an ordinary person, he was confident that he could make the person lose consciousness instantly. However, it was useless against such powerful cultivators. The three of them have already broken through the Tao Palace realm and entered the four extreme secret lands. Their hearts, livers, lungs, kidneys, and spleen have all been strengthened. Now, they are already cultivating their four limbs. They are in the initial stage of controlling their limbs. They are omnipotent and have the ability to wield the power of the laws. Your power of lightning is related to your own strength. Naturally, it won't be of any use against them. When you master it, even the remaining power of the lightning can easily kill them. Chu Bei did not deliberately lower his voice. Therefore, although his voice was not loud, it was clearly heard by Xiaozhi, Ji Feng, Bai Lian, the Six Paradise Sect leaders, the Great Demons, and even Peng Bo, Lin Jia, and the rest. This boss Chu is really arrogant. It seems like he doesn't care about the three giants of Yin country at all. The Six Paradise Sect leaders glanced at Chu Bei at the same time and pursed their lips subconsciously. Kill us easily? Hearing Chu Bei's words, even Bai Lian, who had always been calm and indifferent to worldly affairs, had her emotions stirred. Anger could be faintly seen between her brows. As for Xiaozhi and Ji Feng, they had already clenched their fists. A powerful aura seeped out of their bodies, and killing intent was faintly discernible in their eyes. How arrogant! Do you know who we are? Xiaozhi's eyes narrowed as he stared coldly at Chu Bei. There's no need to know. Chu Bei's expression was indifferent. You. Hearing this, Xiaozhi's face instantly turned gloomy. However, just as his aura reached its peak and he was about to teach this arrogant guy a lesson, the originally calm ancient palace shook violently again. Under everyone's astonished gaze, the second floor of the ancient palace suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Then, a ball of light swept out. Another treasure is flying out, the Six Paradise Sect leaders exclaimed. However, no one dared to fight for it because they knew that since the two holy lands and the clan of the ancients had arrived, there was nothing for them to do. They could only be spectators. As for the great demons below, they did not make a move either. They all stared at the ball of light unwillingly. Their eyes were filled with anxiety as they waited for the arrival of the elders who were in seclusion. If they went up at this time, they would undoubtedly be courting death in front of the three giants. A piece of green copper? But it seems to contain some aura that I can't see through. Ji Feng frowned when he saw what was in the ball of light. This piece of green copper looked very ordinary at first glance. It seemed like a broken piece of some kind of vessel. However, if one looked at it carefully for a while, they would realize that there was an indescribable charm flowing from it. It gave people an endless feeling of simplicity and vicissitudes of life. Chapter 264. Could this be the human treasure that was lost in the eastern wilderness? The Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heavens sect leader looked at the three leaders in confusion. Xiaozhi glanced at the Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heavens sect leader and said calmly, "No, the human treasure that was lost in the eastern wilderness is a 9-story tower. Not this piece of broken copper. Copper plate, green copper plate, great monarch of the monster race, burial items." The beautiful lady from the Jade Lake sacred ground frowned and muttered to herself. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and relaxed her brows. Her eyes were filled with excitement as she said, "It's not the ancient, desolate tower. It's the treasure that was lost in the middle ground." What? Could it really be the treasure of the middle ground? After Bai Lian's reminder, Xiao Zhi and Ji Feng's expressions changed drastically. If this piece of broken copper was really the treasure of the middle ground, its influence would be too great. The treasure of the middle ground? The Spiritual Ruins Grotto Heavens sect leader frowned when he heard Xiao Zhi and the other two's conversation. The Jade Tripod Grotto Heavens sect leader seemed to know something. According to the records, all the top experts in the middle ground went out to search for this treasure tens of thousands of years ago. They almost overturned the eastern wilderness, the southern mountains, the western desert, and the northern plains. It was a great turmoil. And the person who stole the treasure is none other than the demon race emperor. If this piece of broken copper is really the treasure that was lost in the middle ground, I'm afraid even the Yaoguang sacred ground, the Ji family of the ancients, and the Jade Lake sacred ground won't be able to keep this piece of broken copper. After all, they have to face all the extraordinary powers in the middle ground. After hearing what the Jade Tripod Grotto Heavens sect leader said, the rest of the Grotto Heavens sect leaders were shocked. They looked at the broken copper piece and the light ball again with an indescribable look in their eyes. Fight for it with your own strength. Above the volcano, Xiao Zhi, Ji Feng, and Bai Lian looked at each other. Their figures flashed, and they reached out to grab the floating piece of green copper. This item has an owner. However, just as their palms were about to penetrate the light ball and touch the green copper, a calm and indifferent voice rang in their ears. In the next moment, a purple-red rope appeared out of thin air outside the ball of light. The red rope wrapped itself around the ball of light before Xiao Zhi, Ji Feng, and Bai Lian. Then, it broke through the void and appeared in front of Chu Bei in an instant. So this is the fragment of the immortalization cauldron. Chu Bei stretched out his right hand and took out the green copper piece from the ball of light, and he sensed the imperceptible aura of the Grand Tao within it as he muttered softly, "This is not something you can touch." Xiao Zhi's cold gaze was fixed on Chu Bei's body. As he waved his hands, a long spear made of runes appeared in his hands. As the long spear danced, it immediately brought about a blazing fire dragon. Chu Bei raised his eyes and glanced disdainfully at Xiao Zhi, who was attacking him. His gaze returned to the green copper piece, and he flicked his finger. A thumb-sized red light pierced through the void and appeared in front of Xiao Zhi in an instant. Rumble. There was an earth-shattering loud sound. The originally insignificant thumb-sized electric current suddenly multiplied and exploded the moment it hit Xiao Zhi, turning into a red ball of light with a diameter of 10 meters. In the red ball of light, snake-shaped energy ripples intertwined. The long spear made of runes in Xiao Zhi's hand instantly disintegrated. Bang! The dazzling blue light was accompanied by a scream. Xiao Zhi's body flew backward and crashed into the volcano below. A Dragon Realm expert. Jifeng and Bai Lian's expressions changed as they looked at Xiaozhe, who was either dead or alive. When they looked at Chu Bei again, it was as if they had seen a ghost. Jifeng, in particular, could vaguely see the joy on his face. Fortunately, he had acted a little slower. Otherwise, he would have ended up like Xiaozhe, the seventh elder of the Wavering Light Sacred Ground. He is not a match for Boss Chu. The leaders of the 6 great grottos glanced at the deep crater beside the volcano and stared at Chu Bei in shock. They seemed to be re-evaluating this seemingly ordinary and terrifying existence. Rumble, the moment Xiaozhe was shot down by Chu Bei, the dozens of savage beasts from the Wavering Light Sacred Ground surrounded Chu Bei under the control of a group of cultivators. However, what was laughable was that even the knight closest to Chu Bei maintained a distance of at least 5 meters away from him. Their eyes were filled with intense fear. Old Taoist, didn't you say that the people from the sacred ground were terrifying? Then why was the leader of the Wavering Light Sacred Ground instantly killed by Fraud Tian? Look at Fraud Tian. He didn't even look at the leader when he attacked earlier. Don't you think your understanding of the sacred ground is a little too exaggerated? Maybe they are not as strong as you think. Pang Bo and Lin Jia pointed at Chu Bei, who was still playing with the green copper piece in the sky, and looked at the elders of the 6 great grottos. Hearing this, the elders of the 6 great grottos could not help but smile. That is the 7th elder of the Wavering Light Sacred Ground stationed in the Yin country. He has already stepped into the 4 great secret lands and is one of the strongest existences in the Yin country. It's not that he is weak, but that Fraud Tian is too strong. At this point, the elder closest to Pang Bo took a deep breath. If he can defeat Elder Xiao so easily, perhaps he is already in the dragon realm. Such an expert is enough to dominate the entire eastern wilderness. This Fraud Tian is getting more and more mysterious. I feel more and more that the 9 dragons pulling the coffin has something to do with him. Lin Jia glanced at Chu Bei and pouted. She then pulled the corner of Pang Bo's shirt and muttered with a smile. As for the young demon girl and the other great demons, their gazes were focused on Chu Bei. Their expressions were strange, and there was a strong sense of surprise between their brows. Obviously, they did not expect that the person who had appeared in the ancient palace with them from the beginning was the most terrifying existence. Even someone as strong as Xiaozhe from the Wavering Light Sacred Ground was not a match for him. Boss, what's your cultivation level? Yifan recovered from his shock. His full force attack was like a tickle to Xiaozhe's body. However, this fraud boss's finger attack was able to beat Xiaozhe to the brink of death. You will find out in the future. Chu Bei smiled and patted Yifan's shoulder. Then, he waved the green copper piece in his hand at Jifeng and Bai Lian. What? Aren't you going to snatch it? Looking at Chu Bei's playful expression and mocking gaze, Jifeng and Bai Lian cursed in their hearts. However, they still smiled and said, Fellow cultivator, your strength is in the dragon realm, and you are far above us. If we were to fight with you, wouldn't we be too ignorant? Even though they said that, Jifeng and Bai Lian were extremely unwilling to give up. After all, it was a precious treasure that even the powerful powers of the Central Plains wanted to fight for. Unfortunately, it was too late to send such important news back to the sacred ground. Suddenly, a deep roar came from the direction of the forbidden land of the remote antiquity. How long are you humans going to stay in the territory of the demon clan? A terrifying sound wave rippled in the air. A vast and powerful force swept over from afar like a roaring sea and instantly sent the 18 ancient chariots of the Ji family flying. The savage beasts and cultivators around Chu Bei from the Wavering Light Sacred Ground were also sent flying by this force. It's Senior Golden Ape. Hearing the roar, the young lady from the demon clan and the group of great demons exclaimed in surprise. Their faces were instantly filled with joy. When they looked over, they saw a giant beast that was more than 10 meters long. With a deep roar, it approached from afar and appeared above the crater in an instant. This is the black gold ape. Even it was alerted. After seeing the giant beast's appearance, Jifeng and Bai Lian retreated at the same time. Their eyes were filled with dread. The giant beast was completely black as if it was cast from black gold. Standing in the void, It exuded a powerful aura. Its shape was strange. It had 3 heads. The head in the middle was like an ape. The 2 heads on the left and right were a bird's head and a snake's head, respectively. Upon closer inspection, its entire body was covered in black scales that shone with a metallic luster. It looked powerful and powerful. Should we retreat? An adult black gold ape has the ability to transform into a dragon. From its aura, it is very likely to be at the peak of the dragon realm. It is only 1 step away from becoming a truly terrifying existence. Bai Lian glanced at the ferocious black gold ape and said to Ji Feng, "In the ancient palace of the Shifter Emperor, there must be other treasures besides the scripture and the middle ground treasure. If we leave now, won't we get nothing?" Speaking of this, Ji Feng looked in the direction of Chu Bei. "Moreover, we humans also have a Dragon Realm expert. Perhaps, when the 2 of them fight to the death, we can take advantage of the opportunity to take advantage of them." Senior Golden Ape, this is the human who stole 2 treasures from the Shifter Emperor's tomb. The Shifter girl flew to the side of the giant beast that was more than 10 meters tall and pointed in the direction of Chu Bei. "Human, hand over the Emperor's relics." As the cold voice fell, the right head of the black gold ape opened its mouth and a boundless black wave surged towards Chu Bei and Yi Fan. Chu Bei glanced at the black gold ape and drew a circle with 1 hand. Green lightning overflowed and bloomed like fireworks. With a swoosh, the boundless black wave was annihilated. Dragon Realm? Seeing that Chu Bei was able to withstand its attack, the black gold ape's eyes flashed with surprise. "Senior Golden Ape, this person is not simple. Even the 4 extremities elders of the wavering light sacred ground were not his match," the Shifter girl hurriedly reminded. "I know," the black gold ape replied. When it looked at Chu Bei again, its gaze was more serious. Buzz, 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 buzz. Just as the black gold ape was about to attack again, the ancient palace above the volcano suddenly shook violently again. At the same time, the strange low rumbling sound in the ancient palace became faster and faster. Is another treasure about to appear? There are 3 levels in the palace. Could it be that there is 1 treasure on each level? Looking at the 3rd level of the palace and the blinding light, the 6 great Grotto Heavens sect leaders looked at each other and guessed. Chapter 265. Swoosh. All of a sudden, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a transparent crystal coffin that was less than a foot long flew out from the 3rd floor of the hall. Thump, thump, thump. The crystal coffin floated in the air, vibrating rhythmically like a heartbeat. It was filled with majestic life energy. So that's where the sound came from. Everyone was enlightened when they heard the sound. However, as soon as the dazzling light from the crystal coffin dissipated, everyone's expression froze. The heart of the great emperor. This is the saint heart of the great emperor of the demon clan. Seeing the item in the crystal coffin, all the great demons, including the black golden ape, exclaimed at the same time. Then, they were all ecstatic. Upon closer inspection, there was actually a bright red heart within the transparent crystal coffin. It was only the size of a fist, and it was sparkling and translucent like a red agate. Intense blood-colored divine light lingered around it, and the powerful aura of life was being emitted by it. The heart of the great emperor. We must get it at all costs. The young demon clan girl took a deep breath and suppressed the throbbing in her heart. While guarding against Chu Bei, she gave the order to the great demons below and took the lead to fly toward the transparent ice coffin. Seeing this, Ji Feng and Bai Lian immediately exchanged glances. Then, both of them looked toward Chu Bei's direction at the same time. Fellow cultivator, as a human, I'm sure you know the consequences of letting the demon clan get the heart of the great emperor. The heart of the great emperor is the source of power. If they get it, they might be able to create another great emperor of the demon clan. That's right. As a human, we can't let the demon clan get the heart of the great emperor. As soon as they finished speaking, Ji Feng and Bai Lian led the group of experts behind them and flew toward the transparent ice coffin. Under the lead of Ji Feng and Bai Lian, the 18 ancient chariots of the Ji family formed a battle formation and rushed toward the crystal coffin. The cultivators of the wavering light sacred land, and the Jade Lake Sacred Land also took action. They either rode on savage beasts or rode on divine rainbows as they rushed toward the coffin. In an instant, the crystal coffin that was less than a foot long was firmly trapped. Almost at the same time, the great demons of the demon clan also arrived and reached out to grab the crystal coffin. Bang! Bang! Several pairs of giant hands reached out and grabbed the crystal coffin. Of course, these giant hands were formed from light and were not real hands. While fighting for the crystal coffin, they were also fighting each other. Greedy humans, die! Suddenly, a deafening roar rang out in the air, reverberating through the world. The three-headed black gold ape, whose strength was comparable to a peak Dragon Realm expert, had made its move. At this moment, its whole body was surrounded by green gas and covered with strange runes. Even its arms were gradually crawling with black tortoise and Qilin characters. Its 3 heads and 6 eyes shot out a green light that was several meters long. It could be said that its demonic aura was soaring to the sky. As he punched out, a terrifying long rainbow smashed through the void and landed on the bodies of the human race cultivators. In just an instant, Jifeng and Bai Lian, as well as the other 2 Four Extremities realm experts, were sent flying while coughing up blood. Seeing that Chu Bei was indifferent, the pale-faced Jifeng and Bai Lian anxiously shouted, "My friend, for the sake of the human race, you can't just be a bystander." Hearing this, the black gold ape snorted coldly. Its 2 heads each condensed a terrifying energy beam and shot it at Jifeng and Bai Lian respectively. Feeling the terrifying power contained in the beam that was enough to kill them, Jifeng and Bai Lian's pupils shrank suddenly. However, just as the god of death was about to descend upon them, a huge purple fist print appeared in front of them. With a loud boom, it destroyed the deadly beam of light. After regaining their balance, Jifeng and Bai Lian immediately looked in Chu Bei's direction with gratitude in their eyes. Of course, they knew that the fist print that had saved them from danger was released by him. The black gold ape looked deeply in Chu Bei's direction and snorted coldly again. It took a step forward and appeared beside the crystal coffin. But just as it reached out to grab the crystal coffin, a sword light pierced through the void and arrived in an instant, ruthlessly slashing its arm. With a sharp pain, the arm that was about to grab the crystal coffin inexplicably lost all feeling and fell uncontrollably to the ground. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, a snake-like purple light flashed past and wrapped around the crystal coffin. Damn it! It's this rope again. Human, you're too greedy. First it was the Tao scripture, then it was the Central Plains treasure, and now you're not even willing to let go of the demon race's emperor's heart? Looking at the long purple rope that was wrapped around the crystal coffin and dragged it to Chu Bei, the demon race girl's beautiful eyes seemed to be about to spit fire. Of course, Chu Bei put one hand behind his back and played with the crystal coffin with the other. He looked at the demon race girl and smiled knowingly. I want all of them. The copper plate and the emperor's heart were different from the treasures from the 6 great grotto heavens. If they were contributed to the system, the cultivation conversion progress would at least increase by a few points. As for the long purple rope in his hand, it was a replica of the immortal binding rope that he had exchanged for. Do you really think the demon race is easy to bully? Amidst the roar, the black gold ape's gaze locked onto Chu Bei. Its eyes were filled with murderous intent as it shook its body violently. The bird head on the left opened its mouth and spat out a blazing bolt of lightning. The snake head on the right spat out a black flame that instantly scorched the void. Fellow cultivator, be careful. This is the black gold ape's extreme lightning and netherfire. Seeing the black gold ape's methods, Jifeng and Bai Lian's expressions instantly turned ugly. Both the extreme lightning and netherfire were the black gold ape's ultimate killing moves. Even an opponent of the same level would have to be extremely focused when facing these 2 attacks. One wrong move and death would come knocking. Human, give me back my emperor's heart. Amidst the dancing lightning, the black flame burned fiercely. Under the black gold ape's control, the lightning and black flame intertwined to form a sickle-shaped attack that pierced through the void and blasted towards Chu Bei. This little bit of strength is far from enough. As his calm and indifferent voice fell, Chu Bei took a step forward and his figure appeared directly in front of the sickle formed by the extreme lightning and nether fire. Immediately after, under everyone's gaze, he stretched out his right hand and used his index and middle fingers to clamp down on the sickle that was filled with a terrifying aura. Following which, under everyone's astonished gazes, his two fingers rotated slightly. With a sizzling sound, the sickle turned into a puff of smoke and dissipated into the void. After doing all this, Chu Bei snapped his fingers, and a spherical wave of light instantly bombarded the black gold ape's body. With a loud bang, the black gold ape was sent flying. Its body that seemed to be cast from black gold was charred black, and there were even some parts of its body that were emitting thick black smoke. Glancing at the black gold ape, Chu Bei revealed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Although his current strength was not enough, because of the abundant willpower he had obtained in the Dolua continent, it was enough for him to squander for a few days. According to the system's evaluation, a Dragon Realm expert in the Shrouded Sky realm was equivalent to a Dozun in the Battle Break realm. The system's corresponding level was equivalent to level 9. At present, the goods that Chu Bei could exchange for had already reached the 11th grade of high grade. For this reason, Chu Bei was more than enough to deal with a Dragon Realm expert. Senior Golden Ape? The group of demons, including the demonic girl, hurriedly caught the black gold ape that was sent flying backwards, their faces filled with worry. Even the black gold ape couldn't withstand a single blow from him? Who is he? Could it be that he has already broken through to the Dragon Realm and is on the same level as the family head? Why would such a person appear here? Ji Feng and Bai Lian looked at the black gold ape in the distance, whose aura had weakened in an instant. When they looked at Chu Bei again, besides shock, there was only respect in their eyes. Oh my God, it seems that among everyone here, this fraud is the strongest. It's a pity that he only has eyes for Yi. How good would it be if he had taken me in as well? If that's the case, I'm quite envious of Yi Fan. Wasn't that Tao scripture given to him by the fraud? At the foot of the volcano, Lin Jia, Li Xiaoman, and the rest first glanced at Chu Bei, then at Yi Fan, their eyes filled with envy. Why did you hold back? Why didn't you just kill me? The black gold ape steadied itself and stared coldly at Chu Bei as it shouted angrily, "There's no need to kill you." Chu Bei's indifferent voice fell as he looked in the direction of the ancient palace. "I'm here for the treasures in the palace. I have no intention of killing anyone." Having said that, Chu Bei pointed at the ancient palace. Suddenly, a huge crack appeared in the sky above the ancient palace. Within the crack, a black pillar of lightning with a diameter of 20 meters slowly formed. Gulp. Looking at the huge black pillar of lightning that was filled with an aura of destruction, everyone instinctively gulped as a chill ran down their spines. Ji Feng looked at the Ji clan's disciples behind him in a daze and could not help but murmur softly, "Tell me, who do you think is stronger?" As soon as the black pillar of lightning was formed, it crashed down and hit the ancient palace hard. Crack! With a loud bang, the ancient palace shattered into pieces, sending rubble flying everywhere. Among the rubble that shot out, there was no lack of items that glowed with light, exuding an ancient aura. If you can get them, they'll belong to you. If you can't, then you'll have to blame me. Chu Bei's smiling voice drifted in the air. Get them. Get one. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the Yaoguang, Jade Pool, Ji Clan, and the rest of the powerhouses looked at each other with burning desire in their eyes. However, before they could do anything, the glowing treasures flew toward Chu Bei at the same time, as if they were pulled by a force. I can't let any more of the great emperor's items fall into that guy's hands. The black gold ape looked at the calm Chu Bei unwillingly and roared angrily as it took the lead to chase after the nearest treasure. When the black pillar of lightning appeared, it knew that the gap between it and Lin Fan was not just 1 or 2 levels. Since it could not take back the great emperor's heart from Lin Fan, it might as well go for the other treasures first. In an instant, apart from Chu Bei, Yi Fan, Pang Bo, and the others below, all the human cultivators and great demons moved and quickly rushed toward the treasures. Whoosh! Suddenly, a ray of green light arrived in front of Chu Bei. "Boss, let me do it." Just as the green light was about to hit Chu Bei, Yifan turned into lightning and caught the green light. It was a green dagger that was less than half a foot long. When he flicked the blade, there was a crisp metallic sound. The green light surrounded the dagger, and it was extremely sharp. Upon closer inspection, it looked like a pool of clear water. It was crystal clear and emitted waves of cold air. As expected of an item from the demon race's Great Emperor's collection, it's extraordinary and definitely not ordinary. Yifan played with the dagger. Whether it was the quality or the cold air, it was far superior to the daggers on Earth. Damn it, it has placed a restriction on these treasures. We can't get them at all. Looking at the treasures that were enveloped by the mist, the experts from both the human race and the demon race stared at Chu Bei with resentment. They could only watch as the treasures disappeared into Chu Bei's body. Cultivation conversion speed increasing. Progress at 13%. Progress at 14%. Progress at 15%. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. As expected, the treasures in the Demon Emperor's tomb had successfully received the system's approval. When all the treasures in the air flew into Chu Bei's body, his cultivation conversion speed had reached 21%. Let's go. There's nothing left for us to do here. Under a few unwilling gazes, Chu Bei turned into a beam of light. However, he did not leave immediately. Instead, he appeared next to Pang Bo. As Pang Bo screamed in panic, he brought him away. Just as Chu Bei, Yifan and Pang Bo left, a frail figure endured the pain in his body and flew to the spiritual ruins Grotto Heaven's sect master's side with great difficulty. Who is he? Who exactly is he? How much do you know about him? Xiaozhe asked as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Seventh Elder, this is my first time seeing him. You've seen what he's capable of. How could a small Grotto's sect leader like me have anything to do with such a person? The Spiritual Ruins Grotto's sect leader looked at Xiaozhe respectfully. However, I know his name. Boss Chu. Boss Chu? I will remember this name. Xiaozhe took a deep breath and repeated this name in his mouth. Immortal trickster, are you willing to take me in? Pang Bo looked at Chu Bei with anticipation on the peak of a small mountain outside the ruins. I've said it before. You're different from Yifan. However, the reason why I brought you here is to give you an opportunity. Chu Bei waved his hand as he spoke to this point. A ball of blue light appeared in his palm. This is the heart of the Great Emperor. Pang Bo's jaw dropped as he looked at the small transparent coffin in Chu Bei's palm. Although he did not participate in the previous battle, he had witnessed the entire process. Naturally, he knew what the beating heart in the coffin was. It was an item that would cause a group of great demons and human experts to fight for it. I'm sure you know about your background, right? This heart of the Great Emperor is the opportunity that I'm giving you. Chu Bei exerted a little force, and the transparent crystal coffin shattered. Then, Chu Bei waved his right hand. The blood-red heart that was releasing a majestic life force turned into a beam of red light and entered Pang Bo's body. Chapter 266. Now, you already have the heart of the Great Emperor. As long as you focus on your cultivation, you will definitely become the Great Emperor of the Demon Clan in the future. As for where you will cultivate in the future, you can follow the Demon Clan here. You have the heart of the Great Emperor, and you have the aura of the Demon Clan. They will treat you well, Chu Bei said calmly to Yifan. This was his decision after much consideration. It was also a good karma with Pang Bo. Thank you for your guidance, Immortal. Pang Bo was so excited that his lips were trembling. It was obvious that he had not calmed down from the excitement of having the heart of the Great Emperor. Yi, it seems like I will be catching up to you soon. After bowing to Chu Bei, Pang Bo walked to Yifan and gave him a bear hug. Hee, one day, I will dominate this world. Yifan punched Pang Bo's chest. As for the Immortal Ascension Cauldron fragment, Chu Bei had given it to the system earlier. Go back and merge with the Demon Clan, Chu Bei said as he looked at Pang Bo and pointed to the depths of the ruins. Haha, it seems like I'm quite lucky today. Just as Pang Bo left, a laughter came from the forest further away. Then, a chubby Taoist priest with a red face rushed over on a divine rainbow. Although he looked fat, His movements were very agile. He landed beside Yi Fan silently like a fallen leaf. I was just lucky. I happened to pass by this place and heard some commotion, so I immediately came to take a look. Who would have thought that I would sense the existence of a spiritual weapon before I even entered the depths? At this point, the chubby Taoist priest reached out his large hand and grabbed the green dagger that Yi Fan was playing with. At the same time, he did not forget to show a kind smile and said, "Little brother, this is a lethal weapon. You can't suppress it. Come, let me subdue it." Lethal weapon? I have a secret manual of the Buddha's palm here. Do you want it? Seeing that the chubby Taoist priest's large hand was about to land on the green dagger, Yi Fan immediately turned into a flash of lightning. In the blink of an eye, he pulled away from the chubby Taoist priest with the green dagger. His gaze towards the fat Taoist priest was filled with disdain. It seemed that there were also swindlers in this world. Especially when he saw the fat Taoist priest's flushed face, he wanted nothing more than to punch him and loosen his grease. Little brother, you're quite flexible. A hint of surprise flashed across the fat Taoist priest's face. The blue thread in his hand surged and tossed out. With a swoosh, he snatched the dagger away from Yi Fan before he could react. Heartless fatty, give me back my dagger. Yi Fan's eyes were filled with astonishment. His opponent's methods were actually so sharp. Hee, little brother, this Taoist will remember this favor. It's a small world. The next time we meet, I'll definitely thank you properly. After saying these words, the fat Taoist priest grinned at Yi Fan, revealing his yellowed teeth. However, just as he patted his butt and was about to ride the divine rainbow into the sky, a prison formed by an unknown energy appeared around him. Pung pung pung. Looking at the prison that appeared out of nowhere, the fat Taoist priest exclaimed in surprise. His hands danced as he threw a few punches at the prison. Ouch! It hurts so much. Which bastard is torturing me? Whoosh! Just as the fat Taoist priest was cursing, a black brontosaurus suddenly appeared in the prison and violently bombarded the fat Taoist priest's body. Instantly, the fat Taoist priest let out an even more miserable wail. Who is it? Which bastard is it? Come out and fight me if you dare. Whoosh! The fat Taoist priest endured the pain on his body and scanned the void around him. However, before he could finish cursing, another brontosaurus landed on his body. Compared to the previous brontosaurus, the lightning energy contained in this brontosaurus was even more terrifying. Almost instantly, black smoke rose from the fat Taoist priest's body. Damn it, get out of my way. Almighty, I know my mistake. Please let me go. Black smoke came out of the fat Taoist priest's mouth. Just as he was about to continue cursing, 8 purple brontosaurus appeared above his head. Sensing the powerful aura fluctuation from the 8 brontosaurus, the fat Taoist priest immediately stopped cursing. His expression changed drastically, and he quickly changed his tone. He clasped his hands together and bowed to the void while begging for mercy. You're amenable to coaxing but not coercion? Seeing that the brontosaurus above him had disappeared, the fat Taoist priest was overjoyed. He continued to flatter. I wonder which almighty is passing by here? Can you show yourself to me? I've just obtained a psychic dagger. If almighty likes it, I can give it to you as a gift. Consider it as a good karma. Fatty, I recognize you. Your surname is Duanda, and your name is Duanda. You're wicked by nature, Duanda. Wicked, wicked. Suddenly, a mocking voice floated in the air. The fat Taoist priest's flattering smile immediately disappeared when he heard the mocking voice. He could not help but twitch the corners of his mouth. Little fatty, you want to leave after robbing me? That's a little immoral. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled as he looked at this famous guy from shrouding heaven and perfect plain with a playful expression. Chu Bei raised his right hand, and the replica immortal binding rope flew toward Duanda. With a whoosh, before Duan Deshang could react, the green dagger left his palm and appeared in Chu Bei's hand. You're the one who set this up. Duanda was shocked as he looked at Chu Bei, who was approaching him step by step. Naturally, he had noticed Chu Bei long ago. However, he did not have any spiritual energy fluctuations on him, and he looked about the same age as Yi Fan. Therefore, he naturally thought that he was just an ordinary person. Who would have thought that this ordinary-looking guy was actually an almighty being? What else? Chu Bei's smile grew wider. He waved his sleeve, and the prison that trapped Duanda disappeared. Well, I'm sorry for my poor eyesight. I hope you don't blame me. I'll leave now. Sorry for disturbing you. Duanda immediately cupped his fists at the mysterious man in front of him. Then, he moved his feet, and there were bursts of gorgeous light under his feet. However, just as he was about to break through the air, he suddenly realized that his body was suppressed by an invisible force, and he could not move at all. Little fatty, it's fate that we met. I see that you have many weapons on you. With your divine ability, you can't suppress them. Come, let me suppress them for you. As the mocking voice faded away, Chu Bei waved his right hand towards Duanda, and the blood-red pearl in front of his chest instantly flew into Chu Bei's hand. Give me back my colored glass bead. The fat Taoist screamed, and his face was full of pain. However, as soon as he let out a miserable cry, the sapphire diamond ring on his right middle finger flew uncontrollably into Chu Bei's hand. Sumera ring. Don't touch my Sumera ring. The fat Taoist's scream was completely occupied by panic, and his liver-colored expression was as if he had been robbed of his life. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But all this was just the beginning. With the sound of breaking the air, the fat Taoist's body flashed one after another, and they all fell into Chu Bei's hand. These are all lethal weapons. Consider it as me saving you from disaster. Chu Bei played with the psychic item he snatched from the fat Taoist with a smile on his face. At the same time, he waved his sleeve, and a gust of wind blew over the fat Taoist. Oh my God, you're a robber. These are all treasures that I've painstakingly collected over the years, and you've snatched them all away. The fat Taoist who had regained his freedom howled like a husky whose tail had been stepped on. His expression was even more terrible than if his parents had died. Fatty, there's always a mountain higher than the one before it. Who told you to snatch other people's things? Yi Fan laughed mockingly when he saw the fat Taoist's heartbroken expression. It's gone. It's gone. It's all gone. The fat Taoist mumbled and walked into the depths of the ruins with empty eyes. His eyes were empty, and he looked as if he had lost his soul. Little fatty, our fate is not over yet. We won't meet again in the near future. Remember, collect more weapons so that I can continue to help you get rid of disasters. The fat Taoist who had not walked far heard the laughter behind him, and he stumbled and almost fell to the ground. Boss, your method of giving someone a taste of their own medicine is the best way to deal with such a wicked person. Look at his liver-colored face. It's so satisfying. Yi Fan smiled. Remember this fatty's face. He's an indispensable existence on your path to immortality. You've already been bound by the unseen world. After saying that, Chu Bei handed over all the treasures that he had plundered from Duanda to the system, and his cultivation conversion progress increased from 21% to 28%. Boss, where are we going next? Yi Fan asked excitedly as he took the Sumera ring and put it on his right middle finger. We're going to find the source, Chu Bei said faintly. The most important thing for him now was to recover his cultivation. What's the source? Yi Fan was confused. Simply put, you can think of the source as the energy crystals and spirit stones in those novels. They contain the purest cultivation energy in this world. Your physique requires a lot of spiritual energy, so the source is a must. In this world, there's a kind of person who lives for the source. They stand at the top of the search for the source, and they're called the Source Heaven Master. Moreover, there might be a peerless demon sealed in the source. There's also stone gambling here on Earth, but it's not jade, it's the source. Chu Bei put his hands behind his back. After answering Yi Fan's question, he waved his sleeves and flew to the east with the ladder. Have you heard? A war between humans and demons broke out in the primitive ruins near the forbidden area of the remote antiquity. Of course I know. The war came and went quickly. I heard that not only the 6 Grotto Heavens sect masters, but also the Yaoguang Sacred Ground, the remote antiquity Ji family, and the Jade Lake Sacred Ground stationed in the Yen country. I heard that an ancient palace has appeared. That ancient palace is the mausoleum of the last great monarch of the demon race. 3 great treasures flew out, and it seems that the Almighty of the human race has obtained them. Hee, you don't know about this, right? That Almighty is a businessman, and he calls himself Boss Chu. His strength is above those from the Yaoguang sacred ground, and even the great demon living in the forbidden area of the remote antiquity is no match for this Boss Chu. I saw the battle with my own eyes. TSK, TSK, TSK. It was wonderful. I was there too. That Boss Chu's strength is really terrifying, and he can both defend and attack. Less than 2 hours after the battle for the treasure, the disciples of the various forces and sects outside the ruins began to discuss wildly, and the news spread to the entire Yin country at a speed of 1 kilometer per second. Chapter 267. Qingfeng City. There were millions of people in the city. It was one of the most prosperous cities in the whole of Yin country. Looking around, the streets were bustling with people coming and going. Although it was not the central area of Yin country, its reputation was not inferior to the central cities that occupied a unique geographical location. All of this was because it was the gambling city of Yin country. The gambling city was naturally related to stone gambling. In the whole of Big Dipper, the source of heaven and earth spirit chi was the hard currency in the currency market, and stone gambling was no exception. The premise of stone gambling was to use pure source to exchange for source stones that might contain source stones. Have you heard? Fairy Yinran of the Alcade Sacred Land came to the Alcade Casino today and personally participated in stone gambling. Is that true? Let's go and take a look. If we can see Fairy Yinran's beauty with our own eyes, we can die without regrets. Not just anyone can enter the Alcade Casino today. You have to have at least 1 kilogram of source stones to be allowed in. With your poor appearance, you'd better go to other casinos to try your luck. On the bustling main road, all the cultivators with some wealth flocked to the Alcade gambling house. Qingfeng City, as the gambling city of Yin country, naturally opened casinos again. Usually, the number of people in the casinos of the various sacred lands was about the same, but because of Fairy Yinran's arrival at the Alcade Casino today, the number of people far exceeded the casinos of the other sacred lands. Boss, you've also learned Genesis techniques? Do you have a secret manual? Let me learn. Along the way, as Yifan's understanding of stone gambling deepened, he looked forward to learning Genesis techniques more and more. Genesis techniques, compared to stone gambling, were simply cheating devices. What was even more crazy was that this cheating device was not against the rules. As an earthling, Yifan was very clear about the terrifying value of a good Genesis technique. I haven't learned Genesis techniques, but I have other methods. Chu Bei looked at Yifan with a smile and patted him on the shoulder. I almost forgot. You're the boss of the All Heavens shopping city. Yifan slapped his forehead. After suddenly coming to his senses, he rubbed his palms excitedly as if he was going to do something big. The Alcade Casino was located in the eastern part of Qingfeng City. It was a very quiet place surrounded by trees. It feels like they haven't opened the door yet. It's not that it's not open, but the first round has already ended. Rumor had it that the Wavering Light Sacred Land had transported a lot of high-grade dawn stones to suppress the other sacred land's gambling houses. As long as you are brave enough and have enough pure source, you might even be able to create a divine source. Sigh, looks like I can only wait for the next round. I wonder when the next round will start? Don't be discouraged. Fairy Yinran didn't even come to the previous match. I presume that Fairy Yinran will definitely grace us with her presence in the second match. In front of the Alcade Stone Gambling House, many people had gathered under the towering ancient trees and were discussing animatedly, "Boss, there's still some time before we open. Where should we go now?" Yifan looked at Chu Bei and asked, "Of course, I'll find a random place to try my luck." Chu Bei chuckled and then walked towards the Alcade Stone Gambling House, which was next to the Alcade Stone Gambling House. Although the Alcade Stone Gambling House was far smaller than the Wavering Light Stone Gambling House in terms of scale, it still had many courtyards. The ground was littered with dawn stones, which ranged from a few kilograms to a few taels. The most important thing was that one did not need to verify the amount of pure source in one's possession to enter the Alcade Stone gambling house. Even if one did not have a single gram of pure source, one could still enter and take a look. The first courtyard was obviously the most inferior one. Only a few people were there. The dawn stones here were the most ordinary ones. It could even be said that many of the stones were casually brought back to make up the numbers. Boss, that little girl seems to be quite serious. Do you think she knows any Genesis arts? Yi Fan's gaze instantly stopped on a young girl. At this moment, the young girl was walking back and forth in the first courtyard. She patted this place and knocked on that place, looking very attentive. Little girl, the dawn stones here are all fake. None of them are good. If you really want to try your luck, you'd better go inside. An old man with a walking stick suggested to the young girl as he passed by. Thank you for your reminder, Grandpa. Once I'm done here, I'll go inside. Take care. The girl's lips moved slightly, and her clear and melodious voice was like pearls falling on a jade plate. This young girl wore a purple dress and had an indescribable noble temperament. However, when she revealed a smile, it was a different kind of flirtatious charm. Her eyes were sparkling, and there was a small dimple on her left cheek. She looked very charming and playful. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen the world's most beautiful girl? If you keep looking, I'll gouge your eyes out. After sending off the old man with the cane, the purple-clad girl's gaze suddenly landed on Yi Fan. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, looking as if she wanted to swallow Yi Fan alive. In terms of appearance, the purple-clothed girl was extremely beautiful. Her bright eyes and long eyelashes gave her a spiritual aura. She looked very lively and playful, giving people a feeling of quick-wittedness. As soon as I see the spring breeze, as soon as I part, I yearn to be convinced. As soon as I look at you, you can topple a city. As soon as you smile, you can charm 100 people. Yi Fan looked at the purple-clothed young lady. Miss, you are so pretty, can't you let others take a second look? At least you're honest. I'll allow you to continue looking. The purple-clothed young lady giggled, and the small dimple on her left cheek appeared again. Her pair of big eyes instantly narrowed into the shape of a crescent moon. The corners of Chu Bei's mouth involuntarily twitched when he heard Yi Fan's flirtatious poem. A nauseating feeling surged out from his stomach as all the hairs on his body stood on end. However, when he noticed the purple-clothed young lady's sweet left dimple and cute little canine teeth, he was stunned. Could it be that this little girl was, "Little girl, are you from the Ji family?" Chu Bei looked at the purple-clothed young lady and immediately asked. Hearing Chu Bei's question, the purple-clothed young lady's delicate and flawless face instantly had a look of vigilance. How did you know? You're Ji Ziyue? Chu Bei's smile grew wider. Who exactly are you? Did my uncle send you to bring me back? Or are you an enemy of the Ji family? The purple-clothed young lady swallowed her saliva. Her sea of misery emitted a blue light, and she instinctively took a few steps back. Don't be nervous. I'm not a bad person. I just know your distant ancestor. Chu Bei put his hands behind his back and pretended to be an expert. You know my distant ancestor? Tui. Do you know who my Ji family's distant ancestor is? He's a great emperor. The purple-clothed young lady made a face at Chu Bei. After realizing that he was not hostile, she playfully stuck out her tongue. Chu Bei smiled. Then, he turned to look at Yi Fan. An inexplicable feeling of admiration rose in his heart. This guy just casually flirted with his future wife. Perhaps this is fate. Perhaps Yu Lao really exists. Chu Bei could not help but sigh. Boss, what are you mumbling about? What fate? Yi Fan looked confused. Chu Bei pointed at Ji Ziyue. Based on my divination, this young lady is your cultivation partner. Bastard. What are you talking about? Do you believe that I'll send someone to chop off your tongue as soon as I get home? Hearing that, Ji Ziyue, who had her ears perked up, raised her small fist before Yi Fan could say anything. However, perhaps because of her canine teeth, Ji Ziyue, who was clenching her teeth, looked a little cute. It could be said that she was not lethal at all. Boss, I really hope that your divination is accurate. But from the looks of it, this little girl still needs some training. Yi Fan stared at Ji Ziyue and said, I can't be bothered with you guys. Ji Ziyue waved her fist at Chu Bei and Yi Fan again. She then continued to tap and tap to find the origin. Buzz. At that moment, a buzzing sound was heard in Chu Bei's mind. Looking at the system interface, Chu Bei smirked and fell into deep thought. Ji Ziyue's name was added to the first-level agent column. Master Yuan, how do I value the source stones here? After observing for a while, Ji Ziyue finally chose a spherical source stone that was about 2 meters in diameter. Since there are many inferior source stones here, the price is also very cheap. One tael of source stones can buy 1,000 kilograms of stone. Since there were only a few people in the courtyard, Master Yuan only arranged for one person. Master, I'll take this one. Please cut it. Ji Ziyue passed the source stone to Master Yuan and shifted her position so that Master Yuan could cut it. Oh my god, there's source stones here. Looking at this source stone, it must be at least half a kilogram. Half a tael of source stones for half a kilogram of source stones. This little girl is making a killing. Don't you see her clothes? She must be the daughter of a rich family. Maybe she's just having fun and looking for something new. As Master Yuan cut it again and again, the source stone was gradually revealed. The cultivators who were passing by also gathered around, exclaiming with envy and jealousy. See, this is strength. When Master Yuan completely cut out the source stone, Ji Ziyue shook her head proudly at Chu Bei and Yi Fan. She didn't forget to stick out her tongue, looking very cute. In the end, the source stone that was cut out was half a kilogram. Boss, this little girl has some skills. Looking at Ji Ziyue, who put the source stone into the space bag and ran into the depths of the courtyard, Yi Fan was speechless. She's a direct descendant of the Ji family. Chu Bei smiled. Under the perception of his observation haki, among the hundreds of stones on the first floor of the courtyard, only 4 stones had source stones, and the stone that Ji Ziyue chose had the most source stones. Compared to the outer courtyard, the inner courtyard had a special young woman in charge of receiving and introducing various source stones. Master Yuan also had several people in charge of cutting the stones. Why are you two following me? Ji Ziyue went directly to the innermost courtyard. When she saw Chu Bei and Yi Fan following closely, she suddenly pouted. Miss, you have a unique vision. I want to see you show off your skills again. Yi Fan spread out his hands and smiled. Then follow me. Don't blink. As soon as she heard Yi Fan's words, Ji Ziyue's unhappy expression suddenly disappeared and revealed her cute little canine teeth. Chapter 268. Ji Ziyue glared at Yi Fan. Like before, she knocked here and there, carefully looking for a stone with source energy. After searching for a long time, Ji Ziyue's brows suddenly curved into a crescent moon. Master Yuan, this is it. It was an origin stone the size of a watermelon. Although it was not big, it was not cheap. Due to the high rate of source energy, the price was higher than the price in the courtyard. Little girl, don't you want to reconsider? There is no source energy here. Chu Bei reminded Master Yuan just as he was about to cut the stone. Do you know origin arts, or do I? If I say there is, then there is. Ji Ziyue glared at Chu Bei before looking at Master Yuan. Master, cut it. Chu Bei shook his head with a smile and did not say anything else. Crack. As Master Yuan skillfully cut, the stone's outer layer slowly peeled off, and the stone became smaller and smaller. How can there be no source energy? Ji Ziyue screamed when the stone was completely cut without any source energy. Her voice was filled with surprise. Miss, this is the stone gambling den. If everything has a source energy, then won't the stone gambling den lose a lot of money? Yeah, there's an element of luck involved in stone gambling. Who can guarantee that you'll be able to cut it? If you can cut it, then it's your ancestors' good fortune. If you can't, don't be discouraged. This is normal. The cultivators at the side kept comforting them. What are you two laughing at? Who hasn't made a mistake before? Ji Ziyue glared at Chu Bei and Yi Fan angrily. She then turned around to choose another origin stone. Master Yuan, cut this one. There must be a source energy inside. Ji Ziyue chose another origin stone and immediately called for Master Yuan. Seeing how confident Ziyue was, Yifan could not help but look at Chu Bei and ask, "Boss, does this one have a source energy?" Chu Bei shook his head. "It's the same as the previous one." Seeing how calm Chu Bei was, Ziyue's face was filled with anger. "Master, cut it for him." Master Yuan raised his hand and cut the stone. "No, impossible, there is still nothing." Ziyue opened her mouth wide as if she could not believe what she had just seen. After calming herself down, Ziyue carefully selected 3 more dawn stones. However, despite her high expectations, there was still no dawn stones. "Little girl, you'd better not waste your source." "That's right. You're out of luck today. In my opinion, you should be the one making the decision today and watch the others cut. As for you, you can cut it tomorrow." "You're right. This is called a rebound after hitting rock bottom." What exactly went wrong? Ziyue collapsed on the chair and pouted her lips. Her eyes kept wandering between the origin stones. She looked disappointed and depressed. "Boss, let's cut a piece too." Yifan rubbed his palms, eager to try. "The 4th one over there." Chu Bei casually pointed in a direction. It was a crooked, ugly rock about the size of a soccer ball. It was gray in color and crisscrossed with cracks all over it. The strangest thing was that these cracks were similar to the shape of a human's mouth. It was as if some ancient creature had bitten it to form this shape. How can you choose an origin stone by looking? You have to get close to it and feel it. Ziyue glanced at Chu Bei, who looked like an outsider. "The origin stone you chose is obviously exhausted. Also, it's a ghost splitter stone. Its entire body is covered in cracks. It's very likely that it was bitten by an ancient origin ghost. There is no origin stone left." "Little brother, this girl is right. It's obviously a useless stone. I advise you to change to another one. Don't waste your origin stone." "That's right. This is the famous ghost splitter stone. It's been here for half a year. It's just there to make up the numbers. There is no origin stone." The onlookers shook their heads and consoled him. "You're all too young." Yifan smiled at Ziyue and then glanced at the onlookers. Unlike these people, Yifan's eyebrows were filled with confidence. He firmly believed that this ghost splitter stone contained an origin stone because he believed in Chu Bei. Very soon, Yifan brought the ghost splitter stone that Chu Bei had pointed out to Master Yuan amidst the crowd sighs. Even though it was just a ghost splitter stone, Master Yuan still followed the rules of this trade. He bowed to the origin spirit and muttered a few words before moving his blade. His blade was like a swimming dragon, shining with a cold light. The surface of the stone quickly fell off. Not long after, the football-sized ghost splitter stone had been peeled off layer by layer. It was no longer the size of a fist. "Master Yuan, this useless stone can't produce an origin stone. You're just wasting time. Just cut it open. If it can produce an origin stone, I'll swallow all of it." Ziyue sat on a chair, swinging her snow-white legs as she made a face at Chu Bei. In her opinion, if time went back hundreds of thousands of years, this stone might have produced a good origin stone. However, it was obvious that the origin stone had been swallowed by the origin ghost. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest, ignoring Ziyue's mockery. Under Master Yuan's continuous slashes, the ghost splitter stone was no longer the size of a lychee. However, just as the blade fell, a dazzling light shot out. The rich spirit chi that followed made people feel as if they were bathing in a spring breeze, as if they were soaking in a hot spring. All the pores on their body relaxed, and they felt very comfortable. A fiery red light overflowed, bringing with it a faint, thin smoke. It was like a cloud of fire, but also like a blood-soaked immortal chi. This. The onlookers were shocked. Their gazes were fixed on the lychee-sized ghost splitter stone in Master Yuan's hand. Judging from the density of the spirit chi, it was obvious that an extremely high-quality origin stone had been dug out. The origin chi far surpassed that of similar stones. Taking a closer look, the lychee-sized ghost splitter stone had a red origin stone embedded in it. It was only the size of a finger, but it was flowing with light and vibrant colors. It was so red that it was intoxicating. Although the quality of this origin stone is not bad, it's too small. Yeah, I wonder if it's worth the price of this stone. Speaking of which, although this origin stone is so small, which of you can recognize it? Discussions broke out again in the field. Master Yuan was experienced and knowledgeable. After being stunned for a moment, he could not help but exclaim, could it be the fiery origin stone? As for Ziyue, she knew that she was wrong the moment the red light overflowed. She was very wrong. This ghost splitter stone, which did not have the slightest spirit chi fluctuation, not only did it have an origin stone, but it was also a high-grade fiery origin stone. What? So this is the fiery origin stone. In that case, this thing, which is only the size of a finger, is worth 5 kilograms of pure ordinary origin stone. Oh my god. It seems that gambling origin stones really need a lot of luck. That girl cut 7 high-grade stones in a row and did not get a single gram of origin stone. But this guy just randomly picked a stone, and he actually got a mutant origin stone. It seems that gambling origin stones really depend on one's fate. Such a origin stone, together with a good cultivation method, can build a divine bridge. Amidst the clamor of exclamations, Ziyue's eyes were wide open. She firmly locked onto Chu Bei and said angrily, "Luck, you're just lucky. If you're really that good, cut out another mutant origin stone." No matter what, she did not believe that there was anyone in this world who could tell whether a origin stone contained an origin stone just by looking at it. If there really was someone in this world who had such ability, his name would have spread across the eastern wilderness and even the entire Big Dipper. Miss, before that, shouldn't you fulfill your promise first? Yifan came to Ziyue with a pair of origin stones in his hands. You. Looking at the origin stones in Yifan's hands, Ziyue's face suddenly changed. The redness spread all the way to her ears. Especially in front of so many people, her cheeks were burning red. Don't tease her. Chu Bei smiled and looked at Ziyue. He pointed at the pile of origin stones that she had cut out earlier. You're right. There should be an origin stone in these stones. As for why it didn't cut out, you'll know when you take a closer look. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Ziyue was stunned at first. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and immediately jumped off the chair. After hearing Chu Bei's words, the onlookers all looked suspicious. They seemed to have guessed something and followed Ziyue one after another. All right, you swindling profiteers. It seems that these origin stones have been cut open. After the origin stones were taken away, they were filled with new stones and sealed with a secret method. After a long while, Ziyue saw through the clues. She stood up and cursed at the manager of the stone gambling den not far away. Look, the quality of these stones is really different. They have indeed been processed. Hey Sandstone Gambling House, you guys are too daring. What you've done is too much. How despicable. No wonder the 2 stones I cut out earlier did not contain an origin stone. You guys took them away in advance. Great. If this little girl did not see through the clues, how long would you have lied to us? Everyone, let's destroy this stone gambling den. After the theft of the stone gambling den was exposed, it immediately caused public outrage. Everyone rushed to the manager of the stone gambling den. How did you find out? While the crowd was demanding an explanation from the stone gambling den, Ziyue came to Chu Bei and blinked her eyes curiously. Do you really have the ability to tell if there is an origin stone in it just by looking? Ziyue looked at Chu Bei expectantly. If that was the case, he would definitely hit the jackpot in the Saint City of Gamblers. Looking at Ziyue's shiny canine teeth, Chu Bei naturally knew what she was thinking. Hey, don't go. Answer my question. Seeing Chu Bei turn around and leave, Ziyue panicked. She quickly chased after Chu Bei and Yifan. Miss, you are the one following us this time. Yifan could not help but tease Ziyue. When Chu Bei walked out of the black 3-stone gambling den, the entrance of the arcade gambling den was already crowded with people. Among them, there was no lack of young elites dressed in luxurious clothing. If it wasn't for the chance to see Fairy Yanran, I wouldn't have come to Yin. The stone gambling den here is too low-end compared to the Saint City. Isn't that obvious? The Saint City's origin stones are also much more expensive than the ones here. However, The Saint City's stone gambling den can really produce good stuff. Not long ago, someone cut out a demonic eye. I heard about it too. Not only that demonic eye, but also a demonic bone. Its value is immeasurable. That's nothing. Someone from the clan of the ancients even cut out a broken emperor weapon. Before Chu Bei even walked into the stone gambling den, he could already hear the sounds of discussion around him. Is it really that incredible? Why does it sound so ridiculous? Yi Fan subconsciously glanced at the few young people from the Saint City and muttered, "You idiot. You're so ignorant." Ever since Chu Bei cut out the fiery red source, Ji Ziyue had been following behind him. After hearing Yi Fan's muttering, she immediately cast a disdainful look at him. Source is the rarest spiritual item in the world. It can produce anything, Ji Ziyue said seriously. According to the ancient records, hundreds of thousands of years ago, which is the ancients' era, a peerless beauty was dug out. She walked out of the source of God. Unfortunately, the sacred lands chased after her, and she still managed to escape. This is really a magical world, Yi Fan exclaimed. The arcade gambling den was serene and quiet. There were exotic trees and rare herbs planted in the courtyard. Stones were scattered all over the place, making it look like a rock garden. The layout was very particular. There was a gurgling spring, a pavilion covered with vines, and stones everywhere. It gave people a refreshing feeling as if they had returned to nature. Look, isn't that Fairy Yanran in the pavilion? Let's go and take a look. As soon as Chu Bei and his group entered the arcade gambling den, they heard the excited voices of the young talents. In the arcade gambling den, there was a pavilion built near the water. It was shrouded in mist. The pavilion was hidden among the ancient trees, surrounded by greenery and shrouded in mist. At that moment, through the mist, they could see a graceful lady playing a guzheng in the pavilion. She was otherworldly and untainted by the mortal world. The sound of the guzheng was like the sound of nature. It was refreshing and full of charm. What fairy Yanran? She's definitely not as beautiful as me. Ji Ziyue glanced at the lady in the pavilion and could not help but mutter, "Everyone, Yanran welcomes you on behalf of the arcade's sacred ground." The sound of the guzheng stopped, and a clear voice like that of an oriole was heard from the pavilion. Following that, a few beautiful and otherworldly women walked out of the pavilion in a single file. The last person was like a fairy whose stamen was blooming under the moonlight. Her entire body was hazy and indistinct, but she gave people a feeling that she was flawless. Is this Fairy Yanran from the arcade's sacred ground? What a graceful body, slender and beautiful. She's surrounded by flowers. It's like standing in a cold palace. She's holy and distant. It's really hard to get close to her. It's a pity that we can only look at her from afar. It's said that Yanran has already been selected by the arcade's sacred ground saint. The young elites in the field stared at Fairy Yanran without blinking their eyes. Some of them couldn't help but drool from their mouths. What a bunch of perverts. Ji Ziyue glanced at the young men around her and spat. She looked at Yi Fan and said, "You're much better than them. You know how to appreciate real beauty." Ji Ziyue did not forget to point at herself when she said that. Chapter 269. Hearing Ji Ziyue's words, Yi Fan was speechless. He had seen countless beauties on TV, so he naturally wouldn't be shocked by this so-called Fairy Yanran in front of him. As for Chu Bei, he just glanced at Fairy Yanran and no longer paid attention to her. Instead, he began to use his observation hockey to sense the source stones behind the attic to see which ones had high-grade source stones. Everyone, this is Yanran's first time coming to Yan's arcade stone gambling. Naturally, I can't come empty-handed. This time, the sacred land has just dug out 36 source stones from the primordium ancient mine, and Yanran specially brought them here. In front of the attic, the woman in white moved her lips slightly. What? Primordium ancient mine. There are source stones from there. It is said that the source stones of the sacred city are dug out from there, and from time to time, you can cut out a few earth-shattering treasures. No, even if I have to go bankrupt, I have to take a gamble this time. Hearing the words primordium ancient mine, Everyone in the field instantly seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, and they all rubbed their hands together. Seeing that everyone seems to be a little impatient, then Yinran will not waste any more time. Everyone, please follow Yinran. As her voice fell, Xia Yinran took the lead and walked to the back of the attic. Seeing this, everyone followed closely behind. Behind the attic was a huge square. Normally, the Alcade Stone gambling house would divide it into several areas, and the price of source stones in each area was different. Today, the square was not divided, and tens of thousands of source stones were placed in an orderly manner. The large source stones were 10 meters in diameter, and the small ones were only the size of a fist. Compared to the past, not only were there several times more source stones in the square today, but there were also several times more patrolling personnel. Yinran, we really have to trouble you. The person who spoke was a bald old man. The old man was sitting on an exquisite chair, and a middle-aged man was sitting on each side of him. Whether it was the bald old man or the two middle-aged men beside him, the aura released by them was not weaker than that of the 6 Grotto Heavens sect master. Everyone, these are the 36 source stones dug out from the primordium ancient mine that I told you about. You know more or less about origins? Can you feel anything strange about them? Besides Xia Yinran, there was a square area of about 300 square meters. There were 36 football-sized source stones placed in an orderly manner. Quick, let me take a look. I've never seen an origin stone from the origin ancient mine. Don't push. Move over there. Damn, why do these 36 origin stones all look the same? At this moment, there were thousands of people in the plaza. They were scattered all over the place, gently patting the origin stones. Because of Xia Yinran and the Taichu ancient mine source stone, a third of the people were gathered around the 300 square meter area, all of them standing close to one another as they observed the source stone carefully. These 36 football-sized origin stones were very dim in color, and they faintly had a rustic aura to them. Obviously, they had just been excavated not too long ago. Apart from looking the same, these origin stones from Origin Ancient Mine look very ordinary. There's nothing special about them. That's not right. The spiritual energy of the sea of bitterness in my body is circulating more actively, as if it's yearning for something. Could it be that there's a high-grade origin stone in these origin stones? Could it be that my senses are wrong? Why do I feel like there's something calling out to me from these 36 origin stones? In the square area, hundreds of people were observing the 36 origin stones at close range. Those who were rich and had yet to cultivate were at a loss. To them, these origin stones were very ordinary. As for those cultivators, their eyes were shining with a golden light. Their eyes were filled with greed as they looked at the origin stones, as if they could not wait to cut them open and see what was inside. Hee, we can earn a lot today. Ji Ziyue revealed her shining canine teeth as she rubbed her hands in anticipation. Don't waste the origin stones. Chu Bei smiled as he looked at Ji Ziyue and kindly reminded her, Everyone, I'm sure that some of you have noticed the abnormality of these origin stones. No matter which origin stone it is, when you get close to it, the spiritual energy in your body will resonate with it and become more active. But to be honest, when these origin stones were dug out, there were originally 40 of them. After we cut 4 of them, we realized that there was nothing in them. Xia Yinran suddenly said, What? It can't be. You've already cut 4 of them? There's nothing in them? Then why do these origin stones have an inexplicable calling power? That's right. Are these origin stones all ghost stones? As soon as Xia Yinran finished speaking, a group of cultivators began to question her intensely. According to our judgment, these origin stones should have been assimilated by a superior origin stone. To put it simply, there should be a superior origin stone in these 36 origin stones. As for the other 35 origin stones, it's very likely that they are really useless stones. Xia Yinran's voice sounded again. What? Only one origin stone has an origin stone. The other 35 are all useless stones. So, the hope of cutting out an origin stone is only 1 in 36? That's too low. But think about it from another perspective. Once it's cut out, it's a superior origin stone. An origin stone that can cause the sea of misery to fluctuate is definitely worth hundreds of pounds of ordinary origin stones. That's true. Anyway, I have an origin stone. At most, I'll buy all 36 of them. Fairy Yinran, tell us the price of these origin stones. Hearing Xia Yinran's words, the crowd was stunned for a moment before they began to ask about the price of the origin stones. Because there's a possibility of a superior origin stone being cut out from these origin stones, the price is relatively high. For this reason, the price of the origin stones is the same as the price of pure origin stones. Xia Yinran's gaze swept across the crowd as she spoke with a smile. What? The price is 1-to-1. Each origin stone is 15 pounds, right? In other words, we need to spend 15 pounds of origin stones to cut one? The price that Xia Yinran quoted immediately caused the atmosphere to rise to the peak. 15 pounds of origin stones. Even the grotto heavens in Yin country would need to harvest them for half a year. For small forces, it might take a year or even years to store them. As for those rogue cultivators, it might take several years to accumulate them. This price was no longer a small gamble, but a huge gamble. Especially those who had previously said that they would buy all 36 origin stones, they immediately shut their mouths. This price was a complete slap to their faces. Of course, although most of them were still in shock, there were also some disciples from the big forces outside the Yin kingdom who were eager to give it a try. Originally, they only wanted to see Xia Yinran's beauty. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a good thing? Although they were still unable to buy all 36 origin stones with their financial resources, they could still buy 1 or 2. Everyone, if you have the financial resources, if you are interested in these origin stones, you can pick 1 or 2 and cut them all. The corners of Xia Yinran's lips curled up slightly. Although there's a high possibility that you'll get a useless origin stone, once you really cut it out, it'll be a superior origin stone. Under Xia Yinran's persuasion, some people who originally did not plan to buy the origin stones became restless. Little girl, how many pounds of origin stones do you have? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and suddenly tilted his head to look at Ji Ziyue with a smile. What? Do you want to rob me? Ji Ziyue hurriedly wrapped the space bag around her waist with one hand and stared at Chu Bei with a vigilant expression. She subconsciously took a step back. If I wanted to rob you, the space bag around your waist would have already changed owners. Chu Bei smiled. Then, with a wave of his right hand, he bought a crystal-clear glass ball from the All Heavens Merchant City. This is a colored glass ball. Ji Ziyue's eyes lit up when she recognized the colored glass ball. This was a treasure that could stabilize one's divine soul during cultivation. There was no need to worry about overdoing it and causing qi deviation. Chu Bei casually threw the colored glass ball he snatched from Duanda in front of Ji Ziyue. How about this in exchange for 60 pounds of origin stones? Exchange, of course. Ji Ziyue's large eyes narrowed into crescents. Her head was like a chick pecking at rice. Then, she quickly took out 6 black balls from the space bag. These are 6 black origin stones. They're equivalent to 60 pounds of normal origin stones. Hand over the money and I'll take the goods. After throwing the 6 black origin stones to Chu Bei, Ji Ziyue immediately took the colored glass ball. Her impatient appearance was as if she was afraid that Chu Bei would go back on his words. This little girl has an extraordinary background. The people who were closer to Ji Ziyue immediately revealed a shocked expression when they noticed the black origin stones. 1 pound of black origin stones was equivalent to 10 pounds of normal origin stones. Fellow, are you going to take 2? After taking the 6 black origin stones, Xia Yinran looked at Chu Bei with a smile. Disciple, bring me those 2 origin stones. Chu Bei did not pay much attention to Xia Yinran and directly ordered Yifan to bring over 2 origin stones. Damn, this guy is so crazy. He didn't even look at them carefully and just casually chose 2 origin stones. Those are 60 pounds of origin stones, and he wasted them just like that. He's rich and willful. Moreover, what do you mean by wasted? Even if he randomly chose, there's still a 2 out of 36 chance of success. That's true. With our ability to see through origin stones, what can we see after looking at them carefully? In the end, we're just looking for comfort. We might as well be as straightforward as him. Almost in an instant, the two origin stones that Chu Bei and Yi Fan were carrying became the focus of everyone present. Even those who were originally staying outside to choose other origin stones ran over at this time to join in the fun. However, with master origin stones in place and everyone looking forward to it, Chu Bei did not mention anything about cutting the origin stones. "Brother, are you going to cut them or not? Stop wasting time." Finally, someone could not help but ask, "Aren't there still 34 origin stones? If I cut them all out and you don't buy them, then wouldn't Fairy Yanran suffer a loss?" Chu Bei said with a smile. Hearing this, Xia Yanran threw a grateful look at Chu Bei. Chapter 270. TSK, then why didn't you say it from the beginning? What a waste of time. Some of the young elites from the big forces outside of Yin Kingdom sighed, and then handed over the source to Xia Yanran. Then, one by one, they began to choose the source stones seriously. Among them, Ji Ziyue ignored Chu Bei's persuasion and joined the crowd. "Boss, didn't you say that there is only one source stone? Why did you choose two? Aren't you wasting 15 kilograms of source? Could it be that you don't want these people to be suspicious? Or is it that the observation hockey can't completely determine which of the two source stones has source? Yi Fan looked at Chu Bei with a puzzled expression. "You will know in a while." Chu Bei pretended to be mysterious. In the square area, Ji Ziyue walked back and forth, patting this piece, then knocking that piece, looking very attentive. "It's so strange. It feels like both of them have source, and the source seems to be the same size." After searching for a long time, Ji Ziyue pouted and looked hesitant. After a long while, Ji Ziyue's eyes suddenly lit up. Her eyebrows relaxed and she was overflowing with joy. "It's you." Ji Ziyue screamed excitedly, then picked up a source stone and returned to Chu Bei and Yi Fan. "Little girl, you wasted 15 kilograms of source. Chu Bei shook his head. "Humph. I bet that there is no source in your source stone." Ji Ziyue patted the source stone in her hand and did not forget to stick her tongue out at Chu Bei and make a face. Chu Bei smiled and said, "Why don't we make a bet?" "What kind of bet?" Ji Ziyue was interested. "Let's bet on which of our source stones has a different source. Chu Bei looked at Ji Ziyue with a smile. "Okay, what's the bet?" Ji Ziyue agreed immediately, her face full of confidence. "Block all of the source in your body." Chu Bei said, "I still have 20 kilograms of black source, which is equivalent to 200 kilograms of normal source. What do you have to bet with me?" Ji Ziyue shook the space bag. "Damn, I didn't expect you to be a super rich woman." Yi Fan could not help but sigh. "If you win, everything in this bag will be yours." Chu Bei waved his hand, and an ordinary-looking bag floated in front of Ji Ziyue. Ji Ziyue sent her divine sense into the Sumeru ring. After she recognized what was in the Sumeru ring, Ji Ziyue's eyes widened and her jaw dropped. "Are you sure you want to bet? Bet everything you have with me?" Ji Ziyue swallowed her saliva and spoke in a trembling voice due to the shock. There was a strange look in his eyes. He was suspicious of Chu Bei's identity. "As long as you win, they are all yours." Chu Bei's expression was indifferent. "It's a deal." Ji Ziyue shouted excitedly. Just as she was about to open the stone, the others had already chosen their favorite dawn stones and asked Master Yuan to open them. God bless me, I hit him in one strike. It was a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes. There was no spiritual power fluctuation on his body. He was obviously just an ordinary person. At this moment, the middle-aged man's eyes were locked on the knife in Master Yuan's hand. He clasped his hands together and kept chanting. Master Yuan's hands were nimble. The knife was like a swimming dragon, and the surface of the dawn stone quickly fell off. As the onlookers waited, the dawn stone, which was originally the size of a fist, was soon smaller than the size of a fist. The surface of the dawn stone continued to fall until it was completely opened, but there was still no dawn stone. It's really a useless dawn stone. It seems that Fairy Yanran was right. These dawn stones have only been assimilated by the superior dawn stone. That's why they have its aura. It's just a pity for this nouveau riche. He lost 15 kilograms of Dawn Stone and got nothing. The onlookers looked at the middle-aged man with pity in their eyes. As for the middle-aged man, his pig liver-colored face looked as if he had lost a family member. Open mind. The second person stepped forward and handed his Dawn Stone to Master Yuan expectantly. As for the other cultivators who could not wait, they also found a Master Yuan to open their Dawn Stones. Almost at the same time, 6 masters opened their Dawn Stones together. Crack, crack. Amid the crisp sounds, the surface of the Dawn Stone kept falling off. Every time a Dawn Stone fell, the onlookers' hearts would skip a beat. The second Dawn Stone, no Dawn Stone. The third Dawn Stone, no Dawn Stone. The fourth Dawn Stone, no Dawn Stone. The fifth Dawn Stone, no Dawn Stone. 6 Dawn Stones in a row, and there's nothing. If this wasn't the Alcade Stone gambling den, I would have suspected that this was a scam. When the 6 masters put away their knives, the 6 Dawn Stones that they had opened at the same time were all empty. The onlookers at the side exclaimed, 7 have already gone. Now our chances have greatly increased. A cultivator who had yet to open his Dawn Stone looked delighted. This time it's mine. Ji Ziyue placed the Dawn Stone in her hand next to Master Yuan. She did not forget to look at Chu Bei and raise her small fist. Don't forget our bet. If you lose, you have to pay up. After saying that, Ji Ziyue looked at Master Yuan eagerly. Go ahead. Through the secret method passed down by her ancestors, she had the most direct sense of origin energy. Although these Dawn Stones were almost the same, she still sensed a slight fluctuation from this Dawn Stone. Ever since she had learned the secret method passed down by her ancestors, she had been searching for origin energy. She rarely made a wrong judgment on ordinary Dawn Stones. In the Black 3 gambling den, the reason she had made a wrong choice was not because of her, but because the unscrupulous merchant had taken the origin energy inside. Young lady, don't be so confident. The result will disappoint you. That's right. Although you've already cut 7 Dawn Stones, you only have a 1 in 29 chance. The hope is still very slim. Adjust your attitude. Even if you can't cut it out, don't feel too bad. There's only one origin energy. Seeing Ji Ziyue's confident look, the onlookers could not help but mock her. Hee, just wait and see. My judgment is not something you can compare to. Ji Ziyue shook her head at the onlookers. At this moment, the small knife in Master Yuan's hand moved like a dragon and snake. Layers of old skin from the Dawn Stone clay pot kept falling to the ground. Boss, will the Dawn Stone she chose contain an origin energy? Yi Fan asked curiously. Yes, it does, but yes, there's light. Before Chu Bei could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a middle-aged man's scream. When Master Yuan's knife landed on the Dawn Stone again, a dazzling green light shot out from the Dawn Stone. At this moment, the spiritual power in the cultivator's sea of misery began to circulate on its own. All the pores on their bodies began to relax as if they were swimming in a hot spring. It was very comfortable. This young lady really cut it. What kind of origin energy is it? It can cause our spiritual power to fluctuate. Sigh, does this mean that I don't have to cut the Dawn Stone in my hand? Can I return it? Some of the cultivators were disappointed amidst the astonishment. Hee, I told you. There's a mutant source in my bag. Ji Ziyue looked around proudly and finally fixed her gaze on Chu Bei. Her expression was proud like a little rooster that had won a battle. If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. Everything in your bag belongs to me. Then, Ji Ziyue looked at Master Yuan. Continue cutting. Cut it out. I want to see what kind of origin energy it is. However, just as Master Yuan's knife landed, Ji Ziyue's excited expression froze. Her face turned gray in an instant, as if she had eaten a bitter lotus. She was not the only one. With the exception of Chu Bei, everyone present stared blankly at the piece of Genesis source that Master Yuan had cut out. Every single one of them felt as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue. The strangeness in their gazes was already difficult to describe their current astonishment. How? How can this be? I've been gambling on origin energy for decades, and this is the first time I've seen something like this. Could it be that this mutant source has developed intelligence? Does it know how to use illusions? My understanding has been changed. Origin energy is indeed a magical existence. Haha, it seems like we still have a chance with the origin stones in our hands. Amidst the surprised clamor, there were also some sounds of relief. Impossible. How can this be? GZUS stared blankly at the origin energy in Master Yuan's hand. There was only disappointment left on her face. That's right, it was not a single origin energy. It was just a thin origin energy that was not even half a millimeter thick. This origin energy was evaporating and disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It disappeared. It actually disappeared. Under everyone's shocked gaze, the thin mutant source that Master Yuan had cut out turned into a rain of light and disappeared, leaving behind a pile of stone skin. Did this mutant source become a spirit? A shocked expression appeared on Xia Yinran's face. When that green light appeared, she thought that the mutant source had appeared. Who would have thought that it was just an illusion of the mutant source, a complete fake? How cunning! GZUS stomped her feet angrily and gritted her teeth when she realized that she had been tricked by One Piece source. Cut this one. While everyone was still immersed in shock, Chu Bei waved his hand, and an origin stone fell in front of Master Yuan. Suddenly, everyone's gaze fell on Chu Bei, who had randomly picked 2 origin stones. Master Yuan took the origin stone that Chu Bei had thrown to him. Perhaps because the origin stones before were all useless, the anticipation in his eyes had lessened a lot. He held the knife in his hand and moved like a dragon. After the first cut, everything was normal. After the second cut, nothing happened. The third cut, the fourth cut, the fifth cut, looks like you're wrong too. Seeing that the football-sized origin stone had been cut to the size of a fist, Jizua looked at Chu Bei and laughed gloatingly. However, just as she was about to say something, there was a crisp sound that was different from the sound of stone skin being cut. Everyone trembled when they heard it. Master Yuan immediately became careful and slowed down the carving knife in his hand. In the next moment, the green light rushed out. A green mist appeared, and the spirit chi was so dense that it seemed to have condensed into liquid. Almost at the same time, all the cultivator's sea of misery began to move on its own, as if it had received a huge temptation. Chapter 271. There's a source, someone exclaimed. Could it be an illusion like before? Someone guessed. No, this is the real source. The real source. Master Yuan's eyes lit up. The surface of the stone continued to fall off, and the greenness became even more vibrant. It shone brightly in all directions. So many watermelon seeds, everyone exclaimed at the same time when they saw the source. No matter what source it was, as long as it was the size of a watermelon seed, it could be called a watermelon seed source. The watermelon seed sources were tightly embedded in the stone, and there were at least 30 to 40 of them. It's it. That spiritual energy fluctuation was caused by it. Oh my God, this person's luck is too heaven-defying. The first choice, and it's a random one. He actually got it. Now it seems like we can only pray that there are other sources in our source stones. But then again, what source are these watermelon seeds? Everyone's eyes were focused on the watermelon seed sources, and their eyes were filled with greed. This is the abyssal jade crystal. Jizue and Xia Yinran exclaimed at the same time after looking at it for a long time. What? This is the first source below the divine source, the abyssal jade crystal. No wonder it can cause the spiritual energy in our bodies to fluctuate. The abyssal jade crystal is the top among the different sources. Just one of them is equivalent to 15 kilograms of pure source. Just one of them is enough to recoup the cost of this source stone. The group of young talents from outside the Yin Kingdom were shocked when they heard about the serene jade gems. Their eyes were filled with envy when they looked at Chu Bei again. At this time, Master Yuan had also completed the extraction stone. There were a total of 50 abyssal jade crystals, which was equivalent to 15 kilograms of pure source. 15 kilograms to 15 kilograms, that's crazy. Why don't I have this kind of luck? Is it because I'm unlucky? Haha, even if there is an opportunity, it is left for those who are prepared. You didn't even buy the source stone. So how can you have such an opportunity out of nowhere? Speaking of which, this person is really blessed by the heavens. In the future, when I choose a source, I'll be like him, straightforward. The noise in the field did not stop for a long time. As expected, you really do have the ability to identify the source with your eyes. Gzu's watery eyes widened as she stared at Chu Bei. After this round of stone cutting, and connecting it to the previous round of stone cutting, she was absolutely certain that this unknown person in front of her possessed an ability that everyone longed for. Don't be in such a hurry to be shocked. Shouldn't you fulfill your bet with the boss first and hand over all your origins? Under Chu Bei's instructions, Yi Fan put the 50 dark jade crystals into his Sumera ring and waved at Gzue. I always keep my word. Gzue mumbled with a pained expression on her face. She then transferred all the black sources in her interspatial bag to Yi Fan. Congratulations, fellow Taoist. You've made a huge profit. Xia Yinran smiled and cupped her fists towards Chu Bei as she congratulated him. After Chu Bei nodded at Xia Yinran, he tossed the other origin stone he had chosen to master Yuan. Cut it. What? Could it be that there's an origin in this stone? Gzue looked at Chu Bei in surprise. The surrounding cultivators looked at Chu Bei's slightly expectant expression, and all of them were at a loss. Looking at the smile on his face, it seemed to be even better than cutting a piece of dark jade crystal source. This is the real treasure. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest. As soon as he said that, everyone's interest was piqued. Everyone looked at Master Yuan's hand again. Crack. The surface of the stone slowly fell off. Master Yuan cut it carefully. Perhaps due to the pressure from Chu Bei's words, every cut was very careful, as if he was afraid of cutting something. Crack. Suddenly, when Master Yuan's fourth cut fell gently, the stone cracked naturally. Then, a dazzling light shot out. It was extremely dazzling, and then a light figure shot into the sky. Oh my God! What's that? Why is it flying? Many people exclaimed, it's like a living thing. Could it be that he cut out a treasure? Maybe it's the flying immortal in the stone. The onlookers in the Alcade Stone gambling house were in an uproar. Not only Xia Yinran, Gzue, and the others, but the bald old man who was standing still with his eyes closed suddenly opened his eyes. Together with the two middle-aged men beside him, he was stunned. A dazzling divine light shone in the sky above the square. It was sparkling and translucent like a crystal. Xia Yinran immediately rushed into the sky and intercepted the light figure. Yi Fan was even faster. His body turned into lightning and appeared beside the light figure in an instant. He reached out a hand to grab it. Pop! However, just as Yi Fan was about to grab the light figure mysteriously dissipated. Why is it gone? Yi Fan was confused as he looked at the light figure that suddenly turned into a rain of light. As for the cultivators below, the moment they saw the light dissipate, they all became extremely excited. It's really the flying immortal in the stone. The real treasure is still in the origin stone. Boss, what's going on? Yi Fan returned to Chu Bei's side with a puzzled expression. You're really an idiot. Before Chu Bei could speak, Gzue glanced at Yi Fan and said, the flying immortal in the stone is a strange phenomenon. Since ancient times, it's also an auspicious sign that stonecutters have looked forward to. Once it appears, it means that something unusual is about to be born in the origin stone. The last time I saw the flying immortal in the stone was in the Holy City. 5 years ago, an almighty cut out a divine source that was worth 50,000 kilograms of ordinary origin stones. I didn't expect to see such a strange phenomenon in my lifetime. I wonder what it will be. I can't believe that these two stones were randomly selected by him. The first one was a dark jade crystal, and the second one is a flying immortal in the stone. This is crazy. Everyone was discussing excitedly. They stretched their necks and stared at the cracked origin stone in Master Yuan's hand, as if the origin stone was theirs. Continue cutting. Hearing Chu Bei's calm words, Master Yuan's hand that was holding the knife started to tremble. It was obvious that this was his first time cutting a origin stone with a strange phenomenon. Ji Ziyue, who was at the side, was even more anxious. She couldn't wait to see what was inside. Will there be any mistakes if you cut it like this? Will the divine item inside leak its spiritual chi or fly away? Master Yuan didn't dare to cut immediately. He seemed to have recalled the legends about origin stones and looked at Chu Bei worriedly. Don't worry. It won't be able to escape from my hands, Chu Bei said calmly. Crack. With Chu Bei's words, Master Yuan continued cutting. The surface of the origin stone peeled off layer by layer. Soon, a piece of crystal appeared, and a cold aura rushed towards them. It's so cold. The nearest ordinary person who wasn't a cultivator shivered instinctively. A layer of frost appeared on his face. The surrounding temperature also dropped rapidly. Traces of cold air spread out from the origin stone. Strange origin stone. Ice origin? Xia Yanran exclaimed. After the surface of the origin stone was peeled off, an oval snow jade appeared. It was like a piece of ice embedded in the origin stone. It was the size of a fist. Oh my god, this ice origin stone is worth at least 500 kilograms of pure origin stone. Moreover, it definitely can't create a phenomenon like immortal flying in the stone. There should be something else inside, a young man exclaimed. Crack. After cutting out the ice origin stone, Master Yuan continued to cut along the crack. When he reached the center of the origin stone, a dazzling light shot out again. A rich fragrance, accompanied by an incomparably holy spiritual energy, swept through the air. It must be a rare treasure. Young man, let's cut this origin stone here. You can take the ice origin stone. As for the rest, I'll buy it back for 3,000 kilograms. At this moment, the bald old man and two middle-aged men flew to Chu Bei's side. Oh, but I don't want to sell it. Chu Bei looked at the bald old man playfully and shrugged with a smile. Young man, it must be your first time in Clearwind City. I'm Sun Tzu. Not only am I the owner of the Alcade Stone Gambling House, I'm also the ninth elder of the Alcade Sacred Ground. If you can sell this origin stone to us, we'll treat you as a distinguished guest when you come to our stone gambling house in the future. What if I still don't sell it? Chu Bei looked at the bald old man calmly. Our original intention was to sell the origin stone that could trigger spiritual chi fluctuations. You did indeed obtain the abyssal jade crystal. As for the origin stone that caused the immortal flying in the stone phenomenon, it was our negligence. The bald old man said again, the treasure inside this stone is far from what you can control. Even I have to hand it over to the Sacred Lord as soon as possible. You were the one who brought these origin stones from Primordium Ancient Mine. Do you have the same thoughts as him? Chu Bei ignored the bald old man and looked at Xia Yanran instead. Immortal flying in the stone. This kind of origin stone is not something I can decide. Xia Yanran moved and retreated behind the bald old man. In an instant, the atmosphere in the hall became strange. Is the Alcade Stone Gambling House forcefully buying it back? It doesn't seem to be in line with the rules. Immortal flying in the stone can definitely cut out a rare treasure that is worth a city. How can the Alcade Stone Gambling House let him get it so easily? Now it seems that the Alcade Sacred Ground is also a hungry wolf. That time in the sacred city, the divine source that was cut out was worth 100,000 caddies of pure divine source. He actually wants to buy it for 3,000 caddies. It seems that we can't cut these origin stones here. What if they target us again? But then again, the Alcade Stone Gambling House is backed by the Alcade Sacred Ground. This person has no choice but to compromise. A group of cultivators discussed softly. Although they were dissatisfied with the bald old man's actions, no one dared to stand up for Chu Bei. After all, standing against the bald old man meant going against the Alcade Sacred Ground. The latter was one of the overlords of the entire eastern wilderness. You unscrupulous merchants are really the same. Your table manners are really ugly. The Alcade Sacred Ground, bah. So you are shameless. You actually want to buy back the origin stones that you sold after seeing the immortal flying in the stone phenomenon. You only dare to do this in this small place. If you were in the sacred city, you would have been killed by those big shots who like to gamble. Ji Ziyue stepped forward and stared coldly at the bald old man. Her words were full of sarcasm. "Little girl, do you have the right to speak here?" The bald old man frowned and snorted coldly. A strong aura came out of his body and swept toward Gzue. Bang! Under this aura, Gzue's purple dress suddenly lit up with a purple light. Although she successfully blocked the bald old man's energy attack, she still couldn't help but step back. "I didn't expect you to have such a background." The bald old man glanced at Gzue's purple dress, and his eyes flashed with surprise. "I'll let it go this time. If you dare to say anything more, you won't be so lucky." "You." Gzue clenched her fists and stared at the bald old man with hatred. Her eyes were full of anger. "There's nothing for you to do here." The bald old man ignored Gzue and glanced at Master Yuan to signal him to leave. After that, he reached out to grab the half-opened origin stone. "It's indeed my first time in the Windy City, and it's also my first time gambling here. For this reason, I've done everything according to the rules. However, what I didn't expect was that you, the banker, really know how to play." However, just as the bald old man's hand was about to touch the origin stone, a mocking voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Almost at the same time, his body trembled violently as if he was imprisoned by an invisible force. No matter how he activated the Sea of Misery to stimulate his spiritual power, he couldn't move at all. Rumble. Suddenly, there were bursts of thunder in the sky above the square. What's going on? The sky was clear just now. Why are there rolling dark clouds and rumbling thunder all of a sudden? Looking at the rapidly changing sky, the people in the square suddenly showed a touch of shock, but more of them were confused. Compared to the spectators, the bald old man felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. Before he could figure out the source of the chill, he saw a purple lightning strike above his head. The lightning came and went quickly. Before anyone could react, it had already struck the bald old man's body. In the roar, the bald old man twitched violently and then fell to the ground. His whole body was charred black, his eyes rolled white, and he lost consciousness. What happened to the owner? Why was he suddenly struck by lightning? "Old man, God is watching what people do. Even God can't stand it anymore." Looking at the bald old man who was suddenly struck by lightning, Gzue smiled. "What's going on? Are you the one who did this?" The two middle-aged men standing behind the bald old man looked at Chu Bei warily. As soon as they finished questioning, the two of them activated the Sea of Misery and reached out to attack Chu Bei at the same time. Crack! Chu Bei didn't move at all. Another two bolts of lightning fell, and the location where they landed was exactly where the two middle-aged men were. In almost an instant, the two middle-aged men who were originally attacking Chu Bei fell to the ground with a loud bang, just like the bald old man from before. "It's you." Looking at the three people who fell at her feet one after another, Xia Yinran's graceful body trembled slightly. When she looked at Chu Bei again, her pupils constricted and were full of fear. She instinctively distanced herself from the other party. Chapter 272. There's no need for such a gambling den to exist anymore. Chu Bei glanced at Xia Yinran calmly. The moment he finished speaking, he waved his hand and the dark clouds above the square started to roll violently. A few moments later, a thunderous dragon roar rang out, and a lightning dragon formed from interweaving lightning bolts emerged from the dark clouds, carrying with it a terrifying and threatening aura. Gulp. Feeling the terrifying aura from the Brontosaurus, everyone in the square gulped instinctively as their eyes widened in shock. Rumble. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the Brontosaurus seemed to have received some kind of instruction as it started to roll around. In just a moment, he swam from one end of the Alcade stone gambling house to the other. Wherever he passed, thunder rumbled and thunder rolled down. The attic, the house, the lotus pond, the rockery, and all kinds of buildings collapsed with a loud bang. In just a few seconds, the originally luxurious Alcade stone gambling den had turned into ruins. There was no raging fire, but there were burn marks on every piece of collapsed rubble. After destroying the entire gambling den, the Brontosaurus appeared above the square. Its large head swept across everyone in the square as a terrifying aura filled the air. Some of the ordinary people were so frightened by this aura that their legs turned to jelly and they fell to the ground directly. Another dragon roar sounded. The Brontosaurus suddenly opened its large mouth and spat out several bolts of lightning. One after another, they accurately hit the source stones that had not been cut open. Bang, 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 bang. In an instant, all the source stones exploded and several source stones of different sizes were separated from the source stones. Looking at the surface of the source stones, it was even smoother than the top source stones. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Before everyone could react from their shock, these source stones that had exploded mysteriously flew towards Chubei. Since you're doing this, it's not too much for me to take these source stones by force. Chubei's calm voice drifted in the air, and everyone came back to their senses when they heard his voice. In the next moment, everyone looked at Chubei as if they had seen a ghost. All of them froze as if they had been struck by lightning, especially Ji Ziyue. Her mouth looked like a boiled egg had been stuffed into it. Her eyes were wide open, and her brain seemed to have lost the ability to think. She stood there like a piece of wood and stared blankly at Chubei. Her frozen expression was like she was getting to know a new person. As for Xia Yinran, she glanced at the lightning dragon above her head, before looking at the pieces of source energy that had disappeared into Chubei's body. She sucked in a cold breath, her expression blank and at a loss. She stared at Chubei with a gaze full of wariness. Oh my God, we've been wrong. He's not as ordinary as he looks on the surface. If I'm not wrong, he's old enough to be your grandfather's grandfather's grandfather. Who is he? Is he also from the sacred ground, or the clan of the ancients? I finally understand now. He didn't choose these two source stones at random. Maybe he has mastered a terrifying ability to identify the source stones. It's just that owner's son is so pitiful. He actually kicked an iron plate. How can he be pitiful? This is called the evils we bring on ourselves are the hardest to bear. If this source stone with the flying fairy in the stone was cut out by us, what do you think the outcome would be? After regaining their senses, everyone's eyes were fixed on Chubei as they laughed and guessed. Where did you come from? Ji Ziyue swallowed. After seeing Chubei's means, she was no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, there was some respect in her eyes. Didn't I tell you? I know your ancestor. Chubei looked at Ji Ziyue with a smile. As for my Taoist name, before the ancients, people called me Boss Chu. Boss Chu? Why does this name sound so familiar? Where have I heard it before? What? So you're Boss Chu. The Boss Chu who snatched 3 treasures from a group of powerful demons, the Ji family of the ancients, the Yaoguang sacred ground, and the Jade Lake sacred ground all by himself. Where did he come from? Tell us in detail. I just heard this news not long ago. It's said that a few hours ago, the Shifter Emperor's tomb appeared in the primordial ruins. 3 treasures were found. One was the human race's immortal scripture, the second was a treasure that was lost in Zhengzhou, and the third was the Emperor's heart. Under the covetous eyes of all the major forces, a mysterious man easily took the 3 treasures into the pouch. This man is Mr. Chu. What? There's such a thing? Amidst the clamor, the crowd once again raised their heads to look at the 300-meter-long lightning dragon. When their gazes returned to Chubei, other than astonishment, there was more respect in their eyes. As for Xia Yinran, when she heard about Chubei's deeds, her body tensed up like a rock, and her heart sank like it was filled with cold lead. Boss, we haven't finished cutting the source stone. After putting all the source stones into the Sumura ring, Yifan looked at Chubei and pointed at the half-cut source stone. After Yifan's reminder, everyone's eyes fell on the source stone in unison, their eyes filled with anticipation. Chubei smiled faintly. With a wave of his sleeve, a snake-shaped bolt of lightning flashed past the source stone. Immediately, the surface of the stone fell off and fell to the ground with a rustling sound. In an instant, dazzling light shot out in all directions. A ball of light rushed out and danced in the air. A fragrance filled the air, and the light and shadow swirled around. It was very dreamy. It was a silvery white light that was extremely sacred. It danced around everyone, and an intoxicating fragrance filled the air. Trying to run? Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The ball of silvery white light broke through the void and escaped far away. However, before it could move 100 meters, the brontosaurus above the square swung its tail and whipped the silvery white light towards the light. Perhaps the brontosaurus used too much force, but the silver light outside the ball of light instantly dimmed, revealing its inner appearance. Rare. This is indeed a rare treasure. Look carefully. This rare treasure is incomplete. What a pity. How could this be? When everyone saw everything in the ball of light, there was some pity in their shocked expressions because this was not a complete divine treasure. It was missing a crucial part of the plant. In the ball of light, the light blue root was crystal clear like a sapphire, but there were no leaves on the root. However, this rare treasure was very special. The light blue root was connected to a pair of tubers that looked like feet. They were not very big, only an inch long, and were silvery white in color. As the tubers were too similar to human feet, if one did not look carefully, they would think that they were the feet of a little jade person. This seems to be. Legend has it that there was a type of divine medicine in ancient times. It did not have leaves, and it looked like a human body. Could this be that divine medicine? Very likely. It has been extinct for countless years. We only know its shape, but almost no one knows its specific effects. Since it is called a divine medicine, it must have incredible effects. It must be priceless. Some of the people who knew about the ancient divine medicine identified the incomplete spirit plant, and their eyes were filled with passion as if they could not wait to take it for themselves. Let's go. There is nothing for us to do here. Chu Bei took the incomplete divine treasure, glanced at Chu Bei, and then gave Ji Ziyue a look. He stepped out of the ruined Alcade stone gambling Denver. As soon as Chu Bei left, the ruins were filled with people. Who can tell me what's going on here? The Alcade stone gambling den turned into a ruin just like that. Isn't the Alcade stone gambling den backed by the Alcade sacred ground? Who in the entire eastern wilderness would dare to offend such an overlord? Where is Fairy Yinran from the Alcade sacred ground? As far as I know, Owner's son has already entered the Dao Palace realm. In terms of strength, he is even stronger than the 6 Grotto Heavens sect master. Why would he watch his gambling den turn into this? What? He is already dead. Based on what you were saying, the Alcade stone gambling den really deserves it. How could they do such a ridiculous thing? However, do any of you know where Boss Chu went? I haven't even seen his face yet. Clamorous sounds rose from all over the ruins, and all of them were discussing Chu Bei. In Windy City, on a side road that connected to the main road. Little girl, haven't you had enough fun? Aren't you going back to the Ji family? Chu Bei turned his head and looked at Ji Ziyue, who was following him like a shadow. Boss Chu, can't you let me see the heart of the great emperor and the middle ground treasure? Ji Ziyue tugged at the corner of Chu Bei's shirt coquettishly. She was not afraid of this powerful man at all. Why don't you believe what I'm saying? I have already given the heart of the great emperor to someone else. I have also lost that piece of copper. Chu Bei stopped and looked at Ji Ziyue seriously. If I can't see you, I will continue to follow you. Anyway, following you too is quite fun. Ji Ziyue stuck her tongue out playfully and decided to follow Chu Bei. Little girl, I wonder if you're interested in being my agent? Chu Bei stopped and looked at Ji Ziyue with a smile. The reason why he had caused such a huge commotion in the Alcade stone gambling den was not only to teach the owner a lesson, but also to show Ji Ziyue what he was capable of. What is an agent? Ji Ziyue's eyes widened in curiosity. I am a businessman. If you become my agent, you will be able to purchase my goods at a low price. Other than that, you can also get a commission from selling my goods. Chu Bei looked at Ji Ziyue calmly and said slowly. Ji Ziyue held her chin and thought for a while. She then asked tentatively, among the treasures you mentioned, is your origin identification technique included? Of course. Chu Bei smiled. His confident eyes showed that he was not worried that Ji Ziyue would reject him at all. Okay, I am willing to be your agent. After hearing what Chu Bei said, Ji Ziyue nodded happily and agreed. Then drip a drop of blood on it. Chu Bei threw the agent's ring to Ji Ziyue casually. You don't look like a bad person. Ji Ziyue took the agent's ring. After hesitating for a while, she clenched her teeth and pricked her index finger. A drop of blood fell on the agent's ring. Chapter 273. Host successfully signed first-level agent Ji Ziyue. First-level agent signing gift package issued. Cultivation conversion speed up. Listening to the system sound in his mind on time, Chu Bei nodded with satisfaction. Adding the source previously contributed to the system from the gambling den. When the system sound stopped, the conversion progress had reached 40%. On the system's agent interface, Ji Ziyue was added to the list of first-level agents. As for the back of the conversion progress bar, it showed that Chu Bei's current realm in the Shrouding Heaven bit wall was 4 extremities. Like Yifan, the system also gave him a signing gift box. As my agent, naturally, there should be a small gift. Chu Bei opened the signing gift package, and a square box appeared out of thin air, and he threw it to Ji Ziyue. Ji Ziyue hadn't finished digesting the information about the first-level agent that suddenly appeared in her mind when she saw Chu Bei throw a square box to her, and she quickly caught it. Opening the square box, there were 3 clouds of mist next to each other, surrounded by fairy mist. Boss, what is this? Ji Ziyue's face was confused, just as she reached out and pointed to the 3 clouds of mist. The latter surged at the same time and quickly disappeared into Ji Ziyue's body. Boss, don't be nervous. The 3 clouds just now are called tricolor hockey. They are observation hockey, armament hockey, and haushika hockey. Don't you want to learn my origin identification technique? It is observation hockey. The 3 clouds of mist entered her body, and Ji Ziyue just spoke with an anxious voice, but Chu Bei interrupted her. Hearing Chu Bei's words, Ji Ziyue took a long breath and then began to close her eyes to feel the changes in her body. After understanding the magical effect of tricolor hockey, Ji Ziyue couldn't help but smile, and the color of joy was overflowing. Thank you, boss. I will practice this tricolor hockey well. After a while, Ji Ziyue opened her eyes and excitedly bowed to Chu Bei. Buzz. Shortly after signing the contract with Ji Ziyue, Chu Bei's sea of consciousness buzzed again. Looking at the 3rd red that appeared not far away on the agent's location map, Chu Bei smiled and took Ji Ziyue and Yifan into the air. 15 minutes later. Boss, even if you really want to eat, why do you have to come to such a remote place? Yifan looked at Chu Bei in confusion. It did not seem like Chu Bei was going to eat. Instead, it seemed like he was looking for something. It's here. Chu Bei suddenly stopped in front of a shabby shop. Raising his head, he saw a flag with holes all over it erected in front of the shop. The words Jiang Family Restaurant were especially eye-catching. Plop. Just as Chu Bei stepped into the restaurant, a small bird bumped into him. I'm sorry, big brother. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. She was a little girl about 5 or 6 years old. Her clothes were patched up, and she was dressed very simply. She had 2 pigtails and looked very cute. Her face was as red as an apple. But at this moment, perhaps because she was afraid, the little girl's long eyelashes trembled, and tears immediately rolled down her face. Her bright red face was covered with tears, and her patched sleeves kept wiping away her tears. Don't be afraid, we're just here to eat. Chu Bei bent down to wipe the little girl's tears and carried her into the restaurant. The restaurant was not big. In fact, it could be said that it was very small. There were only 2 long tables in the restaurant, and there were a total of 8 tables. Moreover, the tables and chairs looked quite old. They had been wiped until they were shiny. However, they looked very antique and very clean. Big brother, put Ting down. Ting will cook for you. The little girl struggled. She seemed to be in a hurry to get down from Chu Bei's arms to cook. You can cook? Looking at the little girl who was not even as tall as the table, Yifan, who was at the side, twitched the corner of his mouth. Where are your family elders? Father and mother are dead. Grandfather. He. The little girl bit her lips tightly. Her voice was choked up as she spoke, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Did something happen to your grandfather? Don't be afraid, tell me. Maybe I can help you. Chu Bei sat on the chair, and pulled the little girl into his arms. His third-level agent was this little girl in front of him. Big brother. Grandfather was taken away by bad people, but he said he would come back. As she spoke, the little girl's eyes turned red again. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly and tears streamed down her cheeks. She lowered her head and looked at her patched shoes. She said softly, But 3 days have passed. Grandfather is still not back. Thud, thud, thud. Just then, a series of footsteps were heard. A middle-aged woman walked in. Aunt Lou, Big Brother, and the others are here to eat. Seeing the middle-aged woman, Ting immediately wiped away her tears. Tell Big Brother, who took your grandfather away? Big Brother will help you bring him back and teach those bad people a lesson. Chu Bei patted the little girl's head tenderly. Little brother, don't do anything rash. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the middle-aged woman pulled a chair over and sat down. She said, The Li family has cultivators. They are not people we mortals can afford to offend. Uncle Jiang and the others were taken away. I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to come back. The Li family? Is it also a clan of the ancients? Yi Fan asked curiously. What's a clan of the ancients? The middle-aged woman was confused. Aunt, tell us in detail. What is the background of the Li family? And why did they take Ting's grandfather away? Seeing Xiao Ting sobbing, Ji Ziyue felt even more pity for her and hugged her in her arms. Under the constant questioning of Yi Fan and Ji Ziyue, the middle-aged woman sighed and told them some things. The so-called Li family was one of the biggest families in the city. More than half of the young generation in the family were disciples of Hayes Grotto. The family leader, Li Hai, was the third elder of Hayes Grotto. He occupied a mountain in the grotto. Coincidentally, Ting's parents entered Hayes Grotto to cultivate at the same time as Li Hai's son. However, in terms of cultivation talent, Ting's parents were far superior to Li Hai's son. Li Hai's son had bad intentions and misbehaved. He did something bad in the grotto, and Ting's father was too righteous. In the end, he couldn't help but make a move. As a result, they became enemies. Ting's father had extraordinary talent and was highly valued in Hayes Grotto, so he wasn't afraid of the Li family. However, as unexpected things may happen, Ting's parents were unfortunately killed by ferocious beasts when they went out to collect spiritual herbs. Since then, the Li family no longer had any scruples and took away Ting's restaurant. In order to survive, the grandfather and grandson could only return to this remote alley to run this shabby restaurant. However, even though they were forced to such a state, the Li family still came to bully them from time to time. 3 days ago, Li Hai sent someone to say that his mountain was short of a sweeper and forcibly took old Master Zhang away. Although we don't like the Li family, they are cultivators. Why is it that the good guys are always bullied and don't live long, while the bad guys live 100 years? That's because the people who punish the bad guys are late. After telling the story of Ting's family, the middle-aged woman let out a sigh. Then, Chu Bei's calm voice sounded. Ting, come with Big Brother to take Grandpa home. Okay? Chu Bei pinched Ting's pink cheeks. Aunt Lou said that Grandpa was taken to Hayes Grotto. It's more than 100 miles away. Ting pinched the corner of her clothes that were full of patches. However, before she could finish her childish words, a thunderous roar sounded in her ears. In the next moment, a rainbow light flashed in the shabby restaurant. Chu Bei, Yi Fan, Ji Ziyue, and Ting disappeared, leaving behind a middle-aged woman with a shocked expression. More than 100 miles away. Big Brother. This, in the sky. Ting hugged Chu Bei's leg in fear. Her small face was full of nervousness. Below them was a continuous mountain range. The mountain range was dense with spiritual energy. It was a good place for cultivation. In the mountain range, there were several mountains. On each mountain, there were some majestic pavilions. Your grandpa is here. Chu Bei picked up little Ting, and under the observation hockey, he quickly locked onto a hilltop, and with one step, he appeared on the hilltop. Amidst the rumbling of thunder, several long rainbows flew out from the top of the mountain. The leader was a middle-aged man in black. Are you Li Hai? Chu Bei looked at the black-clothed man. Yes, I don't know why you are looking for me. Li Hai frowned. I came for one person. After the indifferent voice fell, Chu Bei's right hand reached down to the mountain below. A purple light emerged from the palm of his hand and then flew out. Grandpa, Grandpa. When the purple light returned, little Ting Ting, who was curled up in Chu Bei's arms, immediately cried out in excitement. Her cry was filled with joy. However, when she saw the figure in the purple light clearly, tears began to fall from her eyes again. It was a gray-haired old man. Time had already left traces on his face. He was full of wrinkles and looked weather-beaten. Just like little Ting Ting, his clothes were patched up quite a bit. What was angry was that at this moment, the white-haired old man's face was full of blood. Bruised fingerprints were clearly visible on his wrinkled cheeks. Even his gray hair was stained with blood. At first, the white-haired old man looked blank, but when he saw Ting Ting, his sunken eyes were full of joy. Grandpa, Ting Ting cried sadly. Her big eyes were red, and she wiped the blood on the old man's face with her small sleeves. Ting Ting, don't cry. Grandpa's fine. The old man hugged Ting Ting tightly. His face was full of kindness. How could these bastards have the heart to treat a dying old man like this? They all deserve to die. Looking at the blood on the old man's face, Yifan and Ji Ziyue clenched their fists. They only felt a burst of pain and anger that was difficult to suppress. Ting Ting's small face was full of sad tears. It was really distressing and pitiful. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.